My 16th birthday dinner is a rabbit I shot myself, cooked over a fire I built myself, eaten in a hut that leaks in 3 places I fixed myself. Happy birthday to me. I'm Chen Guangli, orphan hunter of Qingniu Town, proud owner of one bow, one fist manual called Savage Bull Fist, and a previous life I'm not supposed to talk about. Yeah, that kind of situation. One day I was a soldier from Dragon Country. Next day I'm a baby on the Xuanhuang continent, a world where martial artists punch through walls and immortal cultivators ride swords across the sky. And me? I got the hut with the leaks, so I raise my cup of cheap wine to the ceiling and say, "Congratulations, Chen Guangli, 16 years of surviving on stubbornness alone." And the ceiling answers. A screen unfolds in the middle of my vision, gold letters on black, humming like it's been waiting for this exact moment to ruin my dinner. Immortal Martial Simulation System, binding complete. I put the cup down very, very slowly. The system lays it out for me like a sales pitch. It can simulate entire lives. Pick a world, live a whole lifetime inside it in the space of an afternoon. Die of old age or die screaming, doesn't matter. And when it's over, I get to keep things. Talents, insights, techniques, everything my simulated self learned, ripped out and stapled onto the real me. What I don't keep is cultivation itself, and I don't keep loot. No dragging treasure out of a dream. The system is generous, not stupid. Simulations come in colors. Gray, white, green, blue, purple, pink, red, and up past that into colors I can't afford to think about. Gray is a life so miserable it's basically a warning label. White is normal. The deeper the color, the crazier the world, and the fatter the rewards. And there's a slot system. I can hold 3 talents at once. 3. The system assures me this will expand. The system says a lot of things. Then it hands me the newbie package. 3 white simulations, guaranteed compatible with me. Not random, tailored. Like a shop giving you the first hit free, and I know exactly what kind of shops do that, and I do not care even a little bit. Because I've been stuck at the bottom of this world for 16 years, and somebody just handed me a ladder. I check my status panel, 16 years old, Savage Bull Fist, small achievement. Body, decent for a mortal hunter. Overall evaluation, and I'm quoting the system directly here, plenty of room for improvement. Thanks, very diplomatic. My life plan has more holes than my roof, I know. I pick the first simulation before the rabbit gets cold. The world dissolves, and I'm born again. National Arts World. No immortals, no flying swords, just fists, tendons, breath, and men who train their bodies into weapons because that's all there is. My simulated self starts training at 6. By 20, he's forged his strength into Mingjin, the bright force. By 30, Ganjin, dark force, power that travels through a handshake and rearranges your organs politely. People start calling him the martial madman because while everyone else opens schools and takes students and gets fat, he just trains. 50 years of nothing but the fist. Z dies at 56, sitting cross-legged, mid-breath, having beaten everyone there was to beat and nobody left to say it to. A whole life. I watched it and lived it at the same time, and when I open my eyes back in my leaky hut, it's still the same evening. My hands are shaking. Not from fear, from memory. My body remembers 50 years of fist training that never happened. Settlement complete, says the system. Talent extracted. Fist practitioner. Every fist art I touch from now on learns faster, digs deeper, hits harder. And there's a bonus I didn't order. My mental energy took one look at a lifetime of extra memories and jumped a whole tier. I focus, and my chi pushes out past my skin, wobbly, like a candle in wind, but out. Chen externalization. Grandmasters in this region train decades for that party trick. I got it with dinner. I look at the rabbit bones, at the leaky roof, at the golden screen still politely humming. Okay, I tell the system, you have my attention. Next morning I take my hunter money to the tavern in Qingniu Town, order the cheap tea, and do what any reincarnated soldier does in a new world. I sit quietly and let drunk people brief me. And the tavern is buzzing, because the rumor of the decade just landed. The Yellow Court Sect is opening its gates. Entrance exam, held once every 10 years, and this is the year. Around here, the South has 3 holy lands stacked on top of everything else. The Yellow Court Sect, the Heaven Sword Pavilion, and the Myriad Flowers Medicine Valley. Immortal sects, the kind of places where the janitors could flatten our whole town with a sneeze. For a mortal kid, getting in isn't a career move, it's species change. A merchant at the next table is waving a little porcelain bottle around, bragging about a mana pill he can't even use. I trade him for it, hunting trophies, some furs, basically my savings. Not because I need the pill, because I already tested something in the corner of my eye that morning. The system buys things. Feeded items get points. Points buy simulations. The pill goes in, 50 points come out. The merchant thinks he robbed a country boy blind, and honestly, keep thinking that, friend. You just made the first deposit into the scariest investment fund on this continent. Back home, I get greedy and burn points on a random simulation. No guarantees this time, just spin the wheel. The world I land in is genuinely bizarre. I won't even describe it because I didn't have time to learn anything. My simulated self dies at 5 years old. 5. I didn't even make it to the part of life with pockets. The system, totally unbothered, hands me the consolation prize, a talent literally called Pleasant Surprise, which slightly improves the odds that good things happen to me. The universe said, "Lol, here's a participation ribbon, buddy." Lesson filed forever. Random simulations are a casino. Tailored ones are an education. From now on, I read the label before I drink. So I go back to basics and train what I have. With Fist Practitioner installed, Savage Bull Fist stops being a village manual and starts being a language I'm suddenly fluent in. 2 weeks and it hits major achievement, a stage the old hunters in town said takes 20 years of eating bitterness. My punches sound like an ox cart tipping over. I have to practice deep in the woods so nobody asks questions I'd have to answer with lies. That's where the rich kid finds me. Silk robe in a forest, escort of nervous guards, the whole aesthetic. Lin Yichen, young master of the Lin family, out here because everyone with money is suddenly very interested in one topic. Zay asks, extremely casually, whether a local hunter might know anything about the Yellow Court exam. Locations. Dates, details, and he pays for rumors up front. 100 spirit stones, just for what I overheard in a tavern. 100 spirit stones, for gossip. I keep my face bored while my inner accountant does a backflip, because here's what I realize, standing in that forest, holding more money than my hut is worth. Everybody wants exam information, nobody has it, and I am a nobody with a good memory and no reputation to lose. That's not a problem, that's a market gap. 1 week later, there's a new figure in the towns around Qingyu. Hooded cloak, voice kept low, appears in taverns and vanishes. The information peddler. Sells details about the Yellow Court exam. Verified, structured, priced by tier. Basic package, route and timing. Premium package, what the examiners look for. Z is mysterious. Z is reliable. Z is me in my winter cloak, trying not to laugh, collecting spirit stones with both hands. By the time the exam month arrives, the mysterious peddler has quietly retired with over 800 spirit stones, and every young master in the region is walking to the exam clutching notes they bought from a 16-year-old who will be standing in line right next to them. All of it goes into the system. My point balance stops looking like a beggar's bowl and starts looking like a war chest. And I'm going to need one, because the plan isn't just to pass this exam. The plan is to walk into an immortal sect through the front door and make it look easy. With a full war chest, I start running simulations like a man possessed, because I am, technically, the thing possessing him. One life drops me into a world of war machines, giant steel frames, humanity fighting in fleets among the stars. My simulated self climbs from cadet to 5-star general, commanding armies across 100 battlefields. When that life ends, the system pulls out a blue-grade talent called Battle Master. Combat instinct, reading a fight the way merchants read a ledger. I run 4 more lives after that, smaller ones, each leaving a scrap of insight behind, and along the way the system teaches me its fine print. Identical talents don't stack. Get the same gift twice, the second copy just evaporates. So the game isn't collecting, it's curating. 3 slots. Only the best sit down. Then I spend 200 points on something smarter than a new world. I lock the old one. The National Arts World, the first world, saved like a favorite book I can reopen. Locking costs 10 times more, but it means the world stays mine. Same world, new life, every time. And the second life there is where things get spooky. My simulated self doesn't stop at dark force this time. Zay pushes further, into the realm the old masters only whispered about. First comes the stage where mental energy sharpens past human limits, unseen and unheard, sensing danger before it arrives, dodging an arrow with your back turned. And past that, the summit of the entire first world, seeing God, not bad. Total command of your own body. Every muscle fiber, every drop of blood, every heartbeat under conscious control. I wake up in my hut and test it. I tell my face to change. My cheekbones shift. My jaw narrows. A stranger blinks at me from the water barrel. I spend a genuinely embarrassing hour giving myself different chins. Practical upshot, though, I can now hide everything. Aura, strength, age, face. Which feeds directly into the plan. Because here's the thing about the yellow cord exam. I could break through to the innate realm right now. My foundation is stacked high enough. But a 16-year-old innate expert from a nowhere village raises questions. A 16-year-old at the peak of acquired, though, with flawless technique and monstrous talent? That's not suspicious. That's a prodigy. Sects don't investigate prodigies. They fight over them. So I park myself one step below the ceiling, on purpose, and I wait. The hardest technique I've learned so far is looking slightly less impressive than I am. The fist keeps deepening anyway, whether I let it show or not. Deep in the woods one morning, mid-punch, something clicks, and the air in front of my knuckles shatters like ice on a pond. Fist intent, the intent of shattering. Most martial artists chase this their entire lives and die reaching. The tricky part is I nearly get caught with it, because a man in brocade robes happens to be passing the tree line, one of those wandering experts with sharp eyes and too much free time. I collapse the punch mid-motion, stumble like a clumsy hunter, and spend 5 minutes theatrically failing to chop firewood until he loses interest and leaves. Acting. Also a martial art. One more tailored simulation before exam day. A world of demon slayers, night full of monsters, humans fighting back with breathing techniques and blades. My simulated self spends a lifetime on a mountain of rock and wind, and I walk away with rock breathing, a full-body breathing method that turns muscle into bedrock, and a defensive art called copper skin, iron bones, blue grade. My skin now argues with knives and wins. The night before I leave, I check the panel one last time. 16 years old, peak of acquired, artificially parked. Fist intent, hidden. Mental energy, 3 realms past anything this region has ever produced. Talents locked and loaded. The system's evaluation has upgraded me from plenty of room for improvement to genuinely dangerous for your age bracket. From the system, that's a love poem. There's one goodbye to make. My father's grave sits on the hill above town, the hunter who took in a strange, too quiet baby and raised him on rabbit stew and bad jokes, and never once asked why his son's eyes looked older than his own. Zah died when I was 11. I pull the weeds, pour the good wine into the dirt, and sit there a while. Old man, I tell the stone, I'm going somewhere your bow can't follow. But you watch. This name you gave me is going to echo. No jokes for that hill. That's the one place I don't perform. Then I stand up, walk down the hill, and go take the entrance exam of an immortal sect. The exam grounds hit like a festival crossed with a war. 100,000 candidates herded through gates by disciples in flowing robes who fly, actually fly, overhead. Word ripples through the crowd about who's presiding. Xiao Haiming, Peak Lord of Heavenly Pillar Peak himself, flanked by an Elder Zhou and a Warden Xiao, which is roughly like a village archery contest being judged by 3 war gods. And there's a rumor slithering through the lines, the kind everyone repeats and nobody sources. The Tianji Peak diviners read the stars this year and saw a peerless prodigy entering the sect. Every single candidate in this crowd has privately decided the prophecy is about them, including, to be fair, me. The difference is, I've seen my panel. Stage 1 is the talent orbs, crystal spheres that read your body's foundation and glow accordingly. The line shuffles forward. Dim glow, decent glow, dim glow. Ahead of me, there's a mountain of a farm kid the crowd's been calling Dabai, who cracks his knuckles, slaps both hands on the orb like he's arm wrestling it, and produces a light so faint the examiner leans in to check whether the orb is broken. It is not broken. Dabai is escorted out, insisting the orb is intimidated by him. My turn. I put one hand on the crystal, politely, like greeting someone's grandmother. The orb doesn't glow. It detonates with light. A column of brilliance punches into the sky, and the reading floats up for every examiner to see. Innate body. The once-in-a-generation foundation. The kind of body that cultivates in its sleep. The crowd goes silent. Elder Zhou stands up so fast his chair falls over, and somewhere on a mountain far away, I like to imagine the Tianji Peak diviners high-fiving. Prodigy confirmed, I think, keeping my face humble while the examiners fight over my registration slip. You have no idea. Stage 2 is called the heart-refining road, and it's exactly as pleasant as it sounds. A long mountain path wrapped in illusion arrays that reach into your skull, pull out your fears and doubts, and play them back at full volume. Candidates walk in confident and crawl out crying about their childhoods. The pressure scales with you. The stronger your mind, the harder it squeezes. I start walking. Somewhere above, the examiners control the intensity, and I can feel them turning the dial. Pressure fit for a grandmaster. I keep walking. They frown and turn it up. Great grandmaster pressure, enough to fold veteran experts in half. My pace doesn't change. By the end, they're throwing heaven and man realm pressure at a 16-year-old, which I'm fairly sure violates several exam regulations and at least one law of hospitality. And the problem for them is that my mental energy spent multiple lifetimes marinating in worlds they can't imagine. Their illusions rummage around my head looking for fear and find a 50-year fist obsession, a 5-star general, and a filing system. I stroll off the far end of the road, first out of 100,000, not a hair out of place. The examiners look at me the way you look at a cat that just answered a math question. While the rest of the field suffers, a boy in quietly expensive robes drifts over to chat. Fang Zixuan, 7th prince of the dynasty, all easy smiles and careful eyes, out here taking the exam like a commoner, because apparently the palace believes in character building. We trade pleasantries, Z's measuring me. I let him measure a nice, humble, extremely talented country boy, and we get along famously. Before we part, a Sect disciple hands the top performers a jade slip, a directory of the Sect's peaks, each with its own peak lord, specialty, and recruitment pitch. Sword peak, saber peak, alchemy peak, formation peak. I read it like a menu. What I don't see is what's happening above the clouds, where the peak lords are already circling. Chen Xuanji of the heavenly saber lineage, watching the mirror image of the exam, quietly moving his seat closer to the exit so he can grab me first. And on a smaller, shabbier cloud, a broad-shouldered old man with knuckles like tree roots, Hong Hui Li, peak lord of Tianchuan Peak, the fist lineage, sitting next to his crony, the burning fire old Taoist, and muttering, a fist prodigy, a real one, and if one of these sword-polishing vultures takes him, I will personally start a sect war. Stage 3 settles everything. The Star Tower, a combat gauntlet against condensed battle puppets, floor by floor, each one harder. It's meant to sort the top 100 into a ranking. It stops being a ranking about 4 minutes after I walk in. The innate level puppets die in one punch each. The tower, mildly offended, sends 5 innate peak puppets at once. 1 punch each, 5 punches total. I'm not made of time. The tower escalates to a full Grandmaster construct, a thing of humming force that has ended every genius run this century, and I decide the humble country boy act has served its purpose. I meet it head-on and let my fist speak plainly. Shattering intent, out in the open, in front of every examiner and every mirror array in the sect. The construct comes apart like a dropped plate. The plaza goes so quiet I can hear a peak lord swallowing. Fist intent. At 16. At the acquired realm. The words peerless prodigy stop being a rumor and start being a title deed with my name on it. The tower has one more gift for the finale, a peak Grandmaster construct wrapped in red sword intent, the kind of opponent that exists to teach top geniuses humility. And credit where due, it nearly teaches me some. Its sword is faster than anything I've faced outside a simulation, and intent against intent burns my chi like paper. For the first time all exam, I'm actually fighting. It drives me across the arena, opens 3 cuts I don't have time to feel, and lines up a thrust that would end the whole story right here. So I do the one thing no swordsman ever plans for. I step inside the thrust and hug it. 0 distance. A sword is a terrible weapon at hugging range, and a fist is a perfect one. I press my palm flat against its core and pour every drop of shattering intent straight in. No punch, just transmission, like whispering a secret directly into its bones. The construct shudders once and rains down as sand. The tower, now visibly holding a grudge, drops 5 Grandmaster constructs with intent on me at once, and that, finally, is my ceiling. They beat me down with mechanical courtesy, and the exam declares me finished. Final ranking. First, by a margin the examiners describe as statistically upsetting. At the disciple ceremony, the top of the list stands on a stage in fresh robes. Fang Zixuan made the cut, princely smile intact. Lin Yichun is there too. Turns out the rich kid who bought my forest gossip tested into a blazing fire body and got claimed on the spot by the burning fire old Taoist, which means the boy who funded my exam prep is now my classmate. I decide never to tell him. Some investments are funnier unexplained. Then comes the master selection, which for the #1 disciple works in reverse. The peak lords pitch to me. Chen Xuanji offers me the heavenly saber lineage with the dignity of a man proposing marriage. The sword peak promises heirloom blades. The alchemy peak promises I'll never pay for pills again. I walk past all of them to the shabby old man with the tree root knuckles. Hong Huili of Tianchuan Peak stares at me like I've made a clerical error. His peak is the smallest. His lineage is fists in a sect that worships swords. Zi is a Mahayana realm powerhouse, one of the strongest men in the entire South, and he has never in his life had a true disciple, because every genius for 800 years took one look at the fist path and chose literally anything else. I bow and call him master, and this mountain of a man, this living natural disaster, blinks exactly like the talent orb examiner did. Then he laughs loud enough to rattle the ceremony banners, hauls me up by the shoulders, and announces to every rival peak lord in earshot that Tianchuan Peak has a true disciple, and their peaks remain, and I quote, sword-polishing daycare centers. There's paperwork. There's also a catch, because there's always a catch. Tianchuan Peak has a few dozen inner disciples and no senior disciple to manage them, and the role traditionally falls to the true disciple, and that's how, on my first day as an immortal cultivator, I get handed an administrative position. I say I'd rather just train. My new master says that's the spirit, delegation is a fist art too, and leaves me holding the roster. Congratulations, Chen Guangli, 16 years old, prodigy of the age, senior brother of Tianchuan Peak, middle management. My first act as senior brother is meeting the disciples I now allegedly lead. They gather in the Peak's main courtyard, a few dozen inner disciples, all older than me, all cultivating longer than I've been alive, and all staring with the exact expression of employees meeting the boss's teenage nephew. Front and center stands Wang Chuan, the disciple who's been acting senior brother for years, and I brace for resentment. Instead, the man practically weeps with joy. Zi hands over the roster, the duty schedule, the key to the complaint box, wishes me a long, healthy life, and moves to the back row at a speed I can only describe as fleeing. Turns out, managing this peak is a punishment detail everyone's been trading like a cursed artifact. And then, whatever doubts remained evaporate anyway, because the rumor arrives from the ceremony grounds. 16 years old, fist intent, broke the Star Tower. Rank means nothing to cultivators. Power means everything. By sundown, I'm senior brother in every heart on the mountain, and the complaint box is mine forever. Then the sect makes it official. Tianyu Hall, the great ancestral hall, where Grand Elder Yang presides, an ancient with eyebrows like waterfalls, who takes one look at my file and gifts me a jade box containing Kuei cow blood essence, a body-refining treasure most disciples couldn't earn with a decade of merit. Behind him towers the statue of the sect founder Han Shuling, robes carved mid-wind, gazing over our heads at something none of us can see. I stand there, feeling the strangest itch, like the statue is a question I already half know the answer to. I file the feeling away. It'll matter later. Boy, will it matter. The true disciple token they press into my palm upgrades my whole existence. Monthly stipend jumps from 1,000 contribution points to 10,000, and the token plugs me into the Great Formala, the sect's shared virtual space, an artificial dream layered over the mountains where disciples chat, trade, post, and argue. An immortal sect invented social media and called it cultivation infrastructure. I respect it enormously. A true disciple also picks 3 techniques from the scripture pavilion, free. The pavilion keeper expects me to grab 3 fist manuals. Instead, I walk the shelves, with the system quietly appraising everything through my eyes, and its verdict on one dusty scroll nearly makes me trip. The Yellow Court Scripture, the sect's namesake mental cultivation classic, which everyone skips because it's slow and weird. The system rates it orange. Orange. Higher than anything else in the building. I take it with shaking politeness, add the great sun burning heaven true scripture for chi, and the profound heaven saint body for the flesh. The keeper looks at my choices and gently asks if I'm feeling well. Perfectly, thanks. One of us just can't read. Back on the peak, my master decides gift-giving is a competitive sport. Zay tosses me a storage ring like it's loose change, and inside are 3 layers of treasures: pills, materials, manuals, plus 3 actual magic treasures. The Tianyu inner armor, soft as silk and stubborn as a city wall. The Lianyun wings for flight, and the Overlord shattering gloves, fist reinforcements that hum when I make a fist, like they're purring. On top of it all, a jade amulet holding 1 full power strike from Hong Huili himself. If anything threatens you, he says, crush it, and I will be there in the echo. I've had the man as a master for 2 days, and I'd already fight a dynasty for him. They give me my own residence, small bamboo peak, a side summit with a modest Taoist temple, a bamboo grove, and blessed silence. I settle in and immediately commit what the sect would classify as gourmet heresy. See, the stipend store sells spirit ingredients for pill refining, spirit rice, spirit herbs, 100-year roots. And I'm a hunter who spent 16 years cooking. So instead of refining pills, I cook the ingredients. Spirit rice congee with shaved centennial ginseng. The first bowl makes my chi surge better than a week of meditation, and it tastes like a hug. When word leaks, and it leaks because the smell alone travels downwind, my forum nickname gets decided for me. Special Chef. I pretend to hate it. Fed like an emperor and finally unsupervised, I let my parked cultivation off the leash. Chen refining stacks to the 5th layer in weeks. The profound heaven saint body reaches its 2nd layer, and my body slides up to innate peak like it was always supposed to be there. One quiet evening, I step off my temple roof and don't fall. The Lianyun wings spread behind me, the valley wind carries me over the bamboo, and I hang there above my mountain, a kid from a leaky hut, actually flying. I allow myself exactly 1 undignified whoop. The bamboo keeps my secrets. When the first 10,000 point stipend lands, I march to the exchange hall and blow 90% of it on a single manual, the 8 Desolations Jade Shattering Fist, the heaviest fist art the hall stocks, a technique that channels force through jade-hard chi and breaks whatever's on the other side, walls, weapons, worldviews. 9,000 points. The clerk counts it twice. With Fist Practitioner installed, the art unfolds for me like a map of somewhere I've already been. The leftover 1,000 goes to groceries, obviously. My household grows. The stipend store also sells live spirit beasts, intended as guardians and mounts, and I purchase them with warm intentions and a walk. The 8 treasures chicken alone, a plump spirit fowl marketed as an alarm animal, becomes the base of a broth that briefly makes me consider giving up martial arts for cuisine. Somewhere in the registry, my file surely reads, True Disciple, Peerless Prodigy, keeps buying guard animals, has no guard animals. Let them wonder. A cultivator's foundation is built on chi, body, and mind. Nobody ever mentions the 4th pillar, and the 4th pillar is soup. The system, meanwhile, keeps eating my exam fortune and paying dividends. I lock the Demon Slayer world for 1,000 points and run it again, and this time my simulated self doesn't just survive the night, he hunts it. Z corners the Demon King himself, the ancient terror of that world, who turns out to be, at the final door, a coward. Centuries of tyranny, and when someone finally punches back hard enough, the king of monsters tries to bargain, then tries to run, then tries both at once. My simulated self declines all offers. When I wake, the system hands me sun breathing, the origin technique of that entire world, movement and strike and breath in one solar rhythm, plus a perception art called Transparent World, slow everything down, see through flesh to the load-bearing lines of a body, watch a fight like it's happening underwater. I fold both into my fist and feel the 8 Desolations art click up a full stage overnight. Then I burn my last 2 guaranteed white simulations on a hunch, and the hunch pays out something bigger than talents. One drops me into a wandering hero world of sword manuals and Jianghu grudges. The other into a world of monks and princes and tragic kung fu that I recognize. Not vaguely, specifically. It's a novel from my previous life. I read it in a barracks bunk, and the Wu Xia world, that's a story too. That's when the shape of the whole thing snaps into focus. The simulator isn't inventing worlds, it's pulling them from somewhere, and a suspicious number of them are fiction from my old Earth. Which drags a genuinely enormous question behind it like a comet tail. If those worlds are real enough to visit, what's my world? The system, when I poke it, coughs up exactly one hint. Highest tier simulations, the 7 colored ones, connect to something it calls the primordial world. and my continent may be, its word, an appendage. A side courtyard of a much, much bigger house. I sit with that for a while. Then I do what any sane man does with cosmic dread. I schedule it for later and go back to training. The training itself has become almost embarrassing. Every dawn, I sit on my roof facing east and swallow the first purple thread of sunrise chi, an old Taoist ritual the Yellow Court scripture recommends and every other disciple skips because waking up early is hard. 20 days of kanji, purple dawn, and the fist, and my Chen refining hits its peak. Realms that gate other cultivators for years part in front of me like curtains. Of course, a senior brother who never spars starts to attract theories. So when 20 inner disciples come up my peak one afternoon, ostensibly to pay respects, actually to see if the teenage prodigy is made of paper, I invite the strongest to a friendly exchange. Shu Longfei, mid-golden core, a whole major realm and change above me, built like a fortress gate and visibly uncomfortable about bullying a minor. Ze asks me to tap out early and not be embarrassed. I promise to try. Then the world goes slow and glassy, transparent world, and I watch the tension load into his shoulders half a breath before he moves, and I'm simply not there when the palm lands. Sun breathing carries me around him like sunlight around a pillar. I tap him 4 times, gently, on 4 spots that would be 4 endings if I meant it, and step back and ask if he wants tea. The mountain's respect stops being theoretical that day. The recording, though, that's the fun part. Someone captured the spar through the Great Formation, and it goes up on the Sect forum, where my handle, Special Chef, was already infamous for kanji posts. The thread explodes. Half the Sect refuses to believe the footage isn't doctored. The top reply becomes a Sect-wide meme. Watching Shu Longfei chase him is like watching a man throw a meat bun at a dog and miss. Shu Longfei, to his eternal credit, replies underneath, "Can confirm, I was the meat bun." And then the system finishes digesting my latest deposits and announces I can finally afford the next tier. My first blue simulation. I pick from the tailored list, and the world it offers stops my breath for a second, because I know this one too. Knew it page by page back on Earth. A world of hidden villages and shinobi in its founding era. Warring clans, forest gods walking around in human skin, chakra instead of chi. My simulated self grows up an orphan there, joins the first village, climbs to commander of its massed forces, and specializes in the one art that world respects least and I respect most, the body. The 8 inner gates, a technique that unseals the body's limiters one by one, trading safety for power until the user burns like a green sun. Everyone in that world treats it as a suicide art. My simulated self, with a foundation compounded from every life I've ever run, treats it as a staircase. When the era's final monster, an immortal collector of grudges with eyes like spinning fate, rises to drag the world into endless war, my simulated self opens the gates, crosses the battlefield in one step, and ends the legend with a single fist. The scheming shadow creature that spent centuries puppeteering history from underground watches its 1,000-year plan die in one punch and simply gives up, which remains the funniest thing I have ever caused. The villages unite. The era of warring clans closes early, decades ahead of schedule, because one man punched the timeline back into shape. Let me slow down on that one, because that life deserves better than a summary. The Masked Forces career is decades of the best work I've ever done, leading squads through moonlit forests against clans who summon walking mountains, learning to flicker between raindrops, teaching a village of paranoid child soldiers that the guy who fights bare-handed is somehow the scariest person on the roster. My simulated self earns a nickname there that follows him to the history books, the Fist that opens. Opens what, the enemy clans ask, right up until the answer opens them. And the final battle is the stuff I'd frame if you could frame memories. The immortal collector of grudges stands on the head of a summoned god beast, 9 crimson eyes spinning fate at me, monologuing about eternal peace through eternal illusion, the full villain package, delivered with the confidence of a man who has literally never lost. I open the 7th gate mid-monologue. Z doesn't get to finish the sentence. The punch crosses the valley, catches him at the collarbone, and deposits the era's ultimate legend through 3 mountains and into retirement. His flying war fan comes wobbling down after him like a sad kite. The armies of 4 clans watch the strongest shinobi who ever lived get folded by one fist from a man with no clan symbol, no bloodline eyes, and no chakra worth writing down. And somewhere in the crowd, a scribe faints, trying to figure out how to record it. The best part comes after. The black creature under the world, the whispering half-thing that spent 9 centuries nudging that entire era toward ruin, seeding wars, editing history from the shadows, all to resurrect its terrible mother, crawls out of the legend's broken body looking for a new host. Takes one look at the battlefield and finds me looking back. It tries the whisper on me, the whisper that bent kings and prophets for 900 years, and I just crouch down to its level and tell it, honestly, from one long-term planner to another, your plan had a single point of failure, and I'm standing on him. The creature stares at me with its one eye, processes 900 years of sunk costs, and gives up. Not flees, not fights, gives up, melts into the dirt, muttering, and the era's true final boss retires on the spot out of sheer demoralization. I've won a lot of fights since. I've never won one that hard. I live that whole life to a peaceful old age, and the settlement screen when I return is a feast. The 8 gates come out refined into a purple-grade talent, a formation version etched into my real body, limiters I can now unseal at will. Alongside it, a talent called Ninjutsu Genius, and a compendium of that world's arts, hand seals and shadow tricks and elemental jutsu, waiting to be translated into chi. I look at my 3 talent slots, already full, at the overflow shelf of techniques, at a balance sheet that would make the Sect treasurer cry. The exam prodigy act was never the plan, I remind myself. It was the entrance. This, compounding lifetimes while the world thinks I'm a talented kid, this is the plan. And somewhere out there is a primordial world that doesn't know I exist yet. The Shinobi Compendium turns out to translate beautifully. Chakra is just chi with different table manners, so I spend my nights converting jutsu into what I privately call immortal arts. Hand seals reworked for spiritual energy, shadow steps powered by cultivation, elemental techniques that hit a full realm harder in this world's physics. The crown jewel is the yin seal, that world's ultimate battery trick. Compress excess energy year after year into a single storage point. A tiny diamond of condensed power settles into my forehead, hidden under skin, growing a little denser every day. An emergency reserve nobody can see. My whole build philosophy in one crystal. Look modest, carry an avalanche. Then my master calls me up the mountain, and he's got his serious face on, which on Honghui Li looks like a cliff deciding something. The 3 sect competition, he says. Once every 100 years, the South's 3 holy lands, us, the Heaven Sword Pavilion, the Myriad Flowers Medicine Valley, throw their young elites into one arena to settle bragging rights and resource splits for the next century. 4 brackets by realm, and a wrinkle that makes his knuckles crack like firecrackers. This century, the Myriad Demon's royal court is sending a delegation down from the north. Yao. Monster cultivators, born with bloodlines we have to train lifetimes to imitate. The competition is in 1 month, and the sect expects its shiny new prodigy on the roster. Winners take medals. Medals buy things points can't. I ask what the medals buy. Sis smiles like a man opening a weapons cabinet and says, treasury access. Sold. But first, a benchmark. The Tongtian Pagoda is the sect's measuring stick, a tower where each floor condenses a harder trial, and your highest floor is your public rank. The Innate Realm leaderboard has been topped for 3 decades by one Hong Da Wei, a grim, hardworking senior who fought his way to floor 33 over 30 years of grinding and guards that record like a dragon guards its hoard. I enter the pagoda after lunch. Floor 10. Floor 20. The floors are a curriculum with a sense of humor. The teens are combat drills, polite and forgettable. The 20s introduce the gate of life, a shifting labyrinth that rearranges itself according to your expectations, which means the trick is to expect nothing, which means I stroll it, thinking about lunch. The 30s are where the tower starts charging real prices. Endurance halls where the air weighs like guilt, and the famous Gate of Shock, which simply pours the condensed pressure of a land immortal's presence onto your shoulders and measures how long your knees hold. Disciples train years to withstand 3 breaths of it. I stand in it long enough to get bored and start doing stretches, which the tower's recording array faithfully preserves for the sect archives. A fact I learned much later from a forum thread titled simply, "He stretched." I'm honestly enjoying myself. It's the first afternoon since the exam where something pushes back. I finally stall out at floor 47, lungs burning, grinning like an idiot, and walk out into a courtyard where half the sect is staring at the leaderboard. Hong Da-wei's name, 30 years at the top, now sits under mine with a 14-floor gap. I'm told he stood in front of the board for a long time, then went back to his cabin and lay down without dinner. Hong, if it helps, the record you actually held, most stubborn ascent in sect history, is still yours. Nobody wants my version of the shortcut. It involves dying a lot. The pagoda pays out 10,000 points and a matching stack of merits, and my fame graduates from forum famous to delegation famous, because 2 days later, Gao Jianhong comes visiting. True disciple of the Five Elements lineage, occupant of the Grand Master bracket for the competition, a polished, sharp-eyed senior with the specific tension of a man who has done the math on his own bracket. With him trails Lin Yichen, my old forest investor, now radiating second-hand pride like he discovered me. Gao Jianhong's pitch is refreshingly honest. The Grandmaster bracket is where the sect expects to bleed. The Sword Pavilion's blade prodigies are vicious, and now there are Yao in the pool. If I break through to Grandmaster before the competition, the sect will naturally bump me up a bracket to fight there. So he slides a box across my table. 100,000 spirit stones. A fortune. His personal funds. And he asks me, with a completely straight face, to please not get stronger for a month. I look at the box. I look at him. Somewhere in my chest, 16 years of poverty shake hands with the funniest sentence I've ever heard. This is paying me to keep doing what I was already secretly doing, hiding my realm. I accept with grave reluctance, the way you accept a burden, and promise that for the good of the sect, I will heroically remain innate. We shake on a side deal too. In the arena, if his bracket goes wrong, I make it go right. The 100,000 goes straight down the system's throat, and the balance rolls over into a new tier. My first purple simulation. The world it deals me is a scream lit by hellfire, a realm of eternal war between the high heavens and the burning below, all wings and horns and armies that never sleep. My simulated self is born a giant of the horned legions, a siege tower of muscle in the army of a demon lord whose name sounds like fear itself. Z lives 12 years, 12 glorious, catastrophic years, ending when an archangel of judgment, a being of stacked golden rings and a spear of light, personally deletes him mid-battle cry. Shortest meaningful life I've run. The settlement screen shrugs and pays anyway. My talent capacity stretches to a 5th slot, and in slides a purple talent called Enlightened One. Comprehension itself, upgraded. Techniques and scriptures now open for me like doors that were never locked. I chase it with a spree, 20 blue simulations back to back, lifetimes of fists across 20 worlds, and the system distills the whole bender into one purple monster of a talent, Ancient Fist Saint. Every fist art I hold, tripled in power. My knuckles now carry a lineage of 20 dead worlds' martial kings. The one door that stays shut is the strange gray art the Yellow Court scripture keeps hinting at, a power of the mind itself, beyond chi, beyond body. Mind power, the texts call it, and even Enlightened One just scratches at the frame without finding the handle. Fine. Some doors you don't force. Some doors you wait for, and they open from the other side. The door opens on an ordinary walk. I'm strolling the sect's back ranges one evening and wander up Heavenly Heart Peak, a quiet summit soaked in old meditation auras, and the moment I sit down, the Yellow Court scripture in my head starts humming like a struck bell. Resonance. The mountain's accumulated mind imprints and the scripture's weird geometry line up, and something that was folded inside my skull since the first simulation quietly unfolds. A thread of gray light rises off my thoughts. Not chi, not spirit, something older and stranger. Mind power, the legendary third path. I sit there holding a wisp of gray nothing that can touch the world directly, and I start laughing alone on a mountain like a maniac, which is exactly when a peak lord materializes out of thin air. Wen Ruohai, lord of this very peak, a refined scholar type who has apparently been napping in seclusion nearby, drawn out by the disturbance. Se stares at the gray light. Se stares at me. Se says, in the voice of a man whose entire cosmology is being audited, my disciples meditate on this peak for decades. Decades. And you sat down for one incense stick. By morning, he's at Tianchuan Peak with gifts and a proposal, and the proposal is me. Wen Ruohai wants to trade for the prodigy, formally requests I transfer lineages, offers treasures, offers his peak's entire inheritance, offers, at one desperate point, a jar of 9 heavens immortal brew, so ancient the label is a historical document. My master's response evolves in 3 stages: polite refusal, loud refusal, and then a negotiation conducted entirely in the language of 2 old monsters bellowing across a courtyard while I sip tea and the inner disciples sell seats. Peng Huili keeps me. Wen Ruohai keeps his dignity, minus the parts he shouted away, plus a promise I'll consult him on mind matters. The immortal brew stays on our table, which I note my master does not return. And then, because Hong Huili cannot stand being outgifted on his own mountain, he goes into his vault and comes back with the crown of our lineage, the great sun-shattering void fist. The peak's supreme art, heir of the old 9 Yang line, a fist that burns like a rising sun and breaks space where it lands. Only peak lords have held it for centuries. Ze puts the manual in my hands and says, "Sun rises, void breaks." And my disciple does both before 20, or I've wasted my beard. The last month before the competition disappears into a furnace of preparation. Mind power stabilizes at its early realm, gray light that can press, cut, and shield, invisible to anyone without the same sense. I drop 18,000 points on a movement art called Formless and Phaseless, footwork that makes me flicker like a bad memory. In the simulator, I run fist worlds until the Great Sun art blooms into its own intent, Great Sun Fist intent. Heat and inevitability in every strike dawn as a combat doctrine. Departure day arrives like a holiday. The sect rolls out the Luo Fu Immortal boat, an actual immortal artifact, a mountain-sized vessel of white jade that sails on cloud banks, with Grand Elder Bai Tianyu commanding the delegation. And I learn my favorite fact about immortal sect diplomacy. Hidden in the Grand Elder's sleeve is a painted scroll containing a pocket world, and inside the pocket world, playing cards and drinking, sit several full peak lords, officially not attending, unofficially riding along as ordnance in case another sect tries something. Politeness between Holy Lands is just artillery with etiquette. The host grounds sit under the Heaven Sword Pavilion's green ping peak, already crawling with delegations, and the arrivals worth watching aren't the sword cultivators, it's the northern guests. The Myriad Demon's royal court sweeps in like weather, and at the front of their column walks a young man in gold-feathered robes with eyes like falling hawks. Qin Zihang. The name goes around the grounds in whispers with the specs attached. A golden-winged great peng, royal bloodline of the Yao, sent down from the upper world itself. Nominally Grandmaster realm for the bracket rules. Actually, say the whispers, carrying the raw power of a midland immortal, because Yao bloodlines don't read rulebooks. The other 2 sects' geniuses hear this and start rehearsing gracious runner-up speeches. Our delegation holds a strategy meeting that is mostly silence. Then everyone looks at me. I spend the eve of the tournament at the trade fair. Every competition grows a market on its edges, and I graze through it, feeding the system stall by stall. 3 more purple simulations burn through the night, 3 more lifetimes of war, and out of the last one, the system pulls the final piece of my tournament build, a purple talent called Matchless Combat Power. In any fight, my effective strength multiplies 5-fold. It eats my old Battlemaster talent whole and doesn't apologize. 5 slots, all killers now. The Grand Elder, doing his own quiet math about Qin Zihang, hands me a parting gift from the Sect Vault, the Wandering Dragon Inner Armor, high grade, woven from something that used to be a dragon and still remembers being angry about it. The plan for tomorrow gets stated exactly once, in the Grand Elder's cabin, in 6 words. Guang Li holds the peng. Everyone else, win. I go to bed smiling. 16 years old, 1 month of prep, 5 stacked lifetime talents, a secret 3rd path of power, and a bird prince from a higher world who has no idea what's under my innate realm name tag. Hold him? Elder, I'm going to introduce him to gravity. The arena is the Sifang Pagoda, 4 vast battle floors stacked into the sky, 1 per realm bracket, wrapped in viewing arrays so 10,000 spectators can watch every floor at once. Innate fights at the bottom, then Grandmaster, then the higher realms above. Points per victory, brackets feeding upward. Finish your floor and you're allowed to climb and reinforce your seniors. That rule is about to matter enormously. My bracket lasts 4 breaths. 3 innate opponents rotate in, a sword genius from the pavilion, a poison prodigy from the valley, a horned Yao youth, and I don't even warm up the good techniques. Dark travel footwork puts me behind each of them mid-blink. The adamantine lock binds them like gift ribbon, and I stack all three gently on the floor, conscious, unharmed, and deeply confused about the last 4 seconds of their lives. The judges verify the fastest bracket sweep in tournament history. The crowd is still finding their seats, which means I've officially finished my floor, which means the climbing rule is live. I walk to the stairs of the second floor, where Qin Zihang has been dismantling grandmasters with 1 wing each, and I ask the referee, very politely, whether reinforcement is permitted this early. The referee checks the rules twice. Above us, in the Sect box, I can feel Grand Elder Bai Tianyu smiling into his beard. The Peng Prince turns from his latest flattened opponent, sees an innate realm teenager stepping onto his floor, and does me the honor of looking insulted. The exchange starts as a courtesy and becomes a problem in 1 heartbeat. His fist is a golden meteor, royal bloodline, upper world foundation, wind pressure that peels arena tiles. I meet it with the 8 Desolation's jade-shattering fist, and the impact rings the whole pagoda like a bell. Ze skids back 1 step, so looks at his own knuckles, then he stops being polite. Golden light detonates off his shoulders, and out comes the true form, wings like sunset cliffs unfurling wall to wall, a bird the size of a fortress, feathers of layered gold, each one a blade. The crowd's roar hits the ceiling. Yao princes don't show true form to lesser realms. It's the highest compliment he can pay, delivered as a threat. And with it comes the trick that made his reputation, the Nightmare Beast Pearl, an heirloom that pours mental attacks straight into an opponent's mind. No wall of chi can block what attacks the dreamer instead of the body. The pearl flares. The arena holds its breath, waiting for me to fold like everyone else who's faced it. The nightmare pours into my skull, meets a lattice of gray light, and bounces. I actually watch him feel it, the flinch running down that enormous golden neck. Somewhere in the stands, an old Yao elder comes out of his seat, screaming 2 words that empty the diplomatic section. Mind power. The one force their bloodline arts can't cheat past. On a human. On a human child. Qin Zihang, aristocrat that he is, recovers fast and escalates like royalty. The air splits into ribbons of black and white as he ignites the yin-yang 2 energies, the royal court's inheritance art, twin currents that grind whatever they touch into neither nor. The temperature of the fight changes. This is no longer a compliment. This is the upper world taking me seriously. Good. I'd hate for what happens next to feel like bullying. I plant my feet, and inside my body, 7 of the 8 inner gates open in sequence, a row of furnace doors swinging wide. The gate of shock. Steam sheets off my skin. The arena arrays creak. And then I give the crowd the version of me that no bracket was built for. Sun-breathing, carrying great sun-fist intent through formless footwork, multiplied by every stacked talent in 5 slots. The golden bird and I meet in the middle of the sky over the second floor, and for a dozen exchanges, the pagoda just films light. Then the light sorts itself out, and the Peng Prince is on his back in a crater shaped like a snow angel, true form flickered away, staring at the ceiling with the expression of someone recalculating the entire concept of humans. I'm standing on his crater rim, smoking gently from every pore, offering him a hand up. The stands detonate. The Valley disciples are shrieking, the pavilion's sword geniuses are applauding with their mouths open, the Yao delegation is having 17 simultaneous heart attacks, and in our box, my master, who 2 minutes ago was gripping the railing hard enough to leave fingerprints in immortal jade, is now leaning back explaining loudly to everyone within 3 rows that he foresaw all of this, that this is standard Tianquan Peak curriculum, and that he remains, quote, completely calm. Qin Zihang takes my hand. That's the part nobody expects, including me. He comes up grinning, feathers ruffled, delighted in the way only born fighters are after losing a real one. Humans hide their best in the strangest places, he says, loud enough for his own elders to hear. I like this one. The rest of the climb is cleanup. On the 3rd floor, a cloud thunder leopard Yao who'd been terrorizing the bracket meets my fist mid-pounce and finishes his arc as a very fast, very unconscious rug. A pavilion sword cultivator, their third-floor ace, salutes me beautifully, announces this will be a battle of legends, and is out cold before his sword finishes leaving the sheath. I catch him so he doesn't hit his head. Legends deserve that much. Which leaves the fourth floor, the highest bracket, where our senior Tan Chang Sheng has been holding the line alone, and where trouble is already waiting. A dragon-blooded Yao noble with a tortoise-shell bell treasure that swallows attacks like a pond swallows stones. And he isn't fighting fair, and he isn't fighting alone. I look up the last staircase, roll my shoulders, and feel the 7 gates still glowing in my body like a banked furnace. Reinforcement rule, don't fail me now. The fourth floor is a mugging in progress. 3 on 2, the dragon noble with his tortoise bell, a pavilion traitor bracket named Xiaozi, who's decided his sect's odds look better on the other side, and the valley's own fourth floor rose, Du Qingyu, whose specialty is a charm art that turns opponents' hearts into her fan club mid-fight. Tan Changsheng and his partner are back-to-back, bleeding qi, rationing techniques. Then the staircase door opens and the tournament's new problem walks in. Du Qingyu targets me first, which is flattering. Her charm technique rolls over the floor like perfumed fog, the kind of art that's ended 100 duels before they started. What she doesn't know is that my mind is a fortress with a prank installed. I let her illusion think it's working, build her a fake me inside a fake trance, eyes suitably glazed, and while her real attention relaxes into the win, I open the 8th gate I've been saving. The gate of wonder. The world goes white-hot and slow, and I cross the entire floor inside her heartbeat. One fist, cashing in every stacked multiplier I own. She never sees which direction it comes from. The fan club is closed. The dragon noble panics and rings his tortoise bell at me, and the bell does its famous trick, swallows my first strike whole. So I feed it. Great sun-fist intent, strike after strike, heat stacking inside that shell like a kiln with the vents shut, until the treasure itself starts glowing cherry red and the dragon's holding a boiling kettle with both hands. Tan Changsheng reads the moment like the veteran he is, ignites something in his palm, the fleeting life ember, a forbidden trump that burns years of your own lifespan for one perfect strike, and he spends about 10 years of himself right there, and his blow and mine land on both sides of the bell at once. Bell, dragon, and turncoat go down in one connected avalanche. Xiaozi surrenders on his knees to whichever of us looks less scary. Neither of us looks less scary. Final tally, read aloud to a stadium that's lost its voice. The Yellow Court sect takes all 4 floors, all 4 titles. A clean sweep of the century, first time in the competition's recorded history, and the record books will note it was engineered by an innate realm 16-year-old with a staircase pass. The reward ceremony is obscene. 1 million spirit stones, a high-grade spirit treasure, the hornless dragon armor, scales like black moonlight, a pocket world teapot, an actual Dongtian vessel the size of my palm holding a small landscape inside, which the elders call a universe pot, and I immediately call the best lunchbox ever made. And a personal bonus voted by the judges for best performance, a vial of Zhuling essence blood, the refined blood of an ancient vermilion ape that legends describe as a sky-tearing war god. The system looks at the vial and starts purring. The closing banquet is held, at my suggestion, inside my new teapot, because when you own a pocket universe, you host. Every genius of 3 sects and 1 royal court piles into a landscape the size of a valley. My cooking hits the table, and diplomacy dissolves in about an hour. The Yao get drunk fastest. Turns out true forms slip out with the 3rd jar. So the party ends with a leopard asleep in the koi pond, a crane arguing with a pine tree, and the dragon noble, my recent opponent, weeping into Tan Changsheng's shoulder about how nobody appreciates bell craftsmanship. Qin Zihang and I split the last jar as the lanterns burn down. At the gate, he presses 1 golden feather into my hand, a peng token, warm as a coal. The upper world is wide, he says, and my court owes you a debt of face. When you rise, come find me. Not if, when. Birds don't deal in ifs. Home again, I finally let the leash off. No more Gao Jianhome deal, no more bracket math. In 1 sealed week on Small Bamboo Peak, with the saint body pushed to its 3rd layer and 5 full sets of realm-breaking treasures, some from the vault, some bought with tournament money, I break through to the Grandmaster realm properly, the realm I'd been politely declining for months. Then I stroll into the Tongtian Pagoda to update my paperwork and walk out with the Grandmaster leaderboard's 1st place, too. Somewhere, I'm told, Hong Dawei has taken up gardening. I hope it brings him peace. I genuinely do. The sect showers the delegation in glory, and my personal cut reads like a typo. 3 silver merit medals, 5 million contribution points, and the prize Hong Hui Li promised, 1 escorted visit to the Sect treasury, the real one under the mountain. I bank the visit. You don't spend a wish the week you get it. 5 million points, though, those I spend. The system's shop scrolls past purple and lands on a tier I've never afforded, pink. My first pink simulation drops me somewhere gorgeous and impossible. A world where literature is power, where scholars cultivate by writing, where a perfect poem can freeze a river and a war can be lost to a well-argued essay. My simulated self lives a long brush and ink life, and the settlement pays out in structure itself. A 6th talent slot creaks open, and into my collection drop 2 purple gems. Concealing heavenly secrets, which racks my fate in fog, diviners who read the stars about me will find beautiful, confident nonsense. And luck blessing, which tilts the world's coin flips my way, quietly, forever. 2 years slide by like a well-fed river. I grow taller. The kanji gets better. My cultivation base climbs to the peak of foundation establishment, while my actual combat power hovers somewhere the sect has no measuring stick for. The forum has a running thread titled, "What is Senior Brother Chef actually at?" 400 pages, no correct answers. And under the fog of my new talent, in the quiet, I keep feeding the machine. When I finally cash in the treasury visit, I go in with a shopping list and come out with a destiny. The Yellow Court Treasury is a cathedral of shelves under the mountain, rows of magic treasures breathing in their cases, pill bottles glowing like fireflies, manuals radiating tiny weather systems. The escorting elder gives me the tour, the system gives me the appraisals. That's the real game. Everything the elder shows me, the system silently price tags in points, and I'm window shopping through its eyes. Most items read in the thousands, the good vaults read in the millions. Then we pass a dusty side alcove, and the system prints a number that makes me stop breathing. 20 billion points. It's a token, a plain thumb-sized tablet of some golden stone, unlabeled, filed under miscellaneous Founder-era relics. 20 billion. My entire net worth after 2 record-breaking years is a rounding error on that number. I ask the elder, oh so casually, about the little tablet. Z squints. Records say the founder brought it back. Nobody's ever gotten it to do anything. Disciples with merit may handle it. I handle it. My finger catches on the edge. 1 bead of blood touches the stone. The tragedy folds up like a painting, and I'm somewhere else. Golden light from horizon to horizon, warm as a hearth and heavy as history. And in the middle of it, a figure woven out of that light, the remnant of a will, a thought left behind by someone who has already died. It studies me for a long moment and introduces itself as Qin Qian Kun, a lord of the upper world. Correction, delivered with the weight of a falling sun, one of the mightiest beings the upper world ever produced, now reduced to this last echo in a keepsake, waiting inside a token for someone worth spending itself on. And behind the name, wing shadows of something older still, 3-legged, golden, solar. I keep that observation to myself, for now. The echo doesn't do small talk. It has 3 trials, it says. Pass them, inherit what's left of me. Fail them, forget this room. First trial, comprehension. It presses a scripture directly into my mind, the primordial chaos opening heaven scripture, and even the name arrives with a footnote that bends my knees. This text descends from the Ling ancestor himself, the highest existence in all the myriad worlds. My task is to grasp its essence and use it to do something the trial calls opening the heart force world, building a world inside my own mind, an inner universe with me as its sky. Time limit, 50 years, spent in this timeless pocket. 50 years. Qin Qian Kun settles in for a long wait, the way you do when you assign a mortal 50 years of homework. I check my point balance and crack my knuckles. The simulator eats the problem alive. I lock a top-shelf world of pure cultivation and run a 2,000-year lifetime as a scripture scholar, the whole life pointed at that one text like a lens. Then a pink-tier world of gods and elves and world trees where creation myths walk around and can be interviewed. Somewhere between those 2 lifetimes, 2 things fuse into being. The scripture's essence unlocks, the logic of how a world is opened, chaos split, clarity rising, weight sinking. And my fist, marinated across every life I've ever thrown, distills all of it into a new, supreme intent. World fist intent. The fist that carries a world's weight. The the rarest intent in existence, so far past shattering and great sun, they look like penmanship exercises. Then I sit down in Qin Qian Kun's golden nowhere, fold the scripture's essence around my mind power, and open my inner world. It takes 2 days. Chaos splits behind my eyes. A sky lifts, an earth settles, a small young world unfurls inside my mind with my will as its sun. The heart force world, humming, real, mine. The golden light around me actually flickers, which I will learn is Qin Qian Kun's version of screaming. 50 years, the echo repeats numbly. I allotted you 50 years. Mortals spend a decade on the first line. And there's a stranger wrinkle. As my world stabilizes, threads of the surrounding golden chi drain into it, feeding it, and Qin Qian Kun watches his own remnant light nourish a human's inner world with an expression like a man finding squatters watering his garden. Ze mutters, and I quote the mightiest echo of the upper world directly. A pity you're not Yao. Then, grudgingly, well, our kind owes humans a debt or two anyway. Trial 1, passed at 96% under time. The rewards make the tournament hall look like festival prizes. First, the true spirit, mysterious heaven transformation, a divine art that lets me take the true form of any bloodline whose blood I refine. Every vial of essence blood in my collection just became a wardrobe. Second, a seed of solar true fire, the fire of the sun itself, the flame of the golden crow lineage, folded dormant into my chi ocean like a coal wrapped in silk, waiting for me to grow strong enough to wake it. The bonus round is practical. Qin Qian Kun looks at my profound heaven saint body, currently fed to its 5th layer, and produces from his keepsake hoard the exact treasure-grade materials the 6th and 7th layers demand, things I couldn't buy with the whole treasury's ledger. Then comes the fine print. Before releasing me, the echo binds a non-disclosure oath around what happened here, and my system does something it's never done. It reaches past me and muffles the oath's watcher, politely, like a hand over a lantern. Qin Qian Kun doesn't notice. I notice. My simulator just discreetly outranked an upper world relic and filed no paperwork about it. Outside, 1 day has passed. The treasury elder is still yawning by the door. I return the miscellaneous token to its dusty alcove with enormous ceremony, sign out, and go test my new self on the Tongtian Pagoda, where I climb to floor 60 and hit the 61st like a bird hitting glass. Good, still a ceiling somewhere. A man needs a ceiling, or he gets weird. That night, I host dinner for my master, my cooking, Qinze Heng's farewell wine, and over the 3rd course I show him, quietly, the thing I can't hide from him. A single, slow fist traced through the air with world fist intent breathing off it. Hong Huili's chopsticks stop. This man has seen everything the South has to offer, and his hands are not entirely steady. In the whole recorded history of the continent, he says, 1 person comprehended that intent. 1. Ze ascended to the upper world the same century, out of the 9 immortals Ling Sect. My master looks at me for a long time, then refills both cups and delivers the most Hong Huili sentence ever spoken. Eat more. The road you're on has no inns. The only pothole in the road turns out to be botanical. My next cultivation stage needs moon essence divine grass, a lunar herb so rare that only the myriad flowers Medicine Valley grows it. 5 or 6 years from maturity, they tell us. Half a decade of waiting on a plant. Or, counters the part of me that once sold exam tips in a hooded cloak, someone out there already has some and doesn't know what it's worth. So I post on the forum. Special chef, buying, moon essence divine grass, paying stupidly well, discretion guaranteed. And the market answers from the bottom of the barrel, a private message from an outer disciple named Xiao Ming Hao, toned somewhere between hope and drowning. Ze has the grass, family heirloom stock. And he'll hand it over free, along with something he swears is bigger, the location of an ancient tomb, the resting place of a body integration realm mighty one, if I do one thing. Save his family. The story pours out of him. His clan lives in the far Yuanlong dynasty, minor gentry sitting on land that happens to hold that tomb. Word leaked. Now every vulture in 3 regions is circling, rogue cultivators at the soul transformation realm, whole squads of them, besieging the estate to squeeze out the tomb's secret. His family is holding on formation arrays and stubbornness. The sect won't intervene in a foreign dynasty for an outer disciple. Zay's been posting into the void for weeks. A body integration tomb, realms above anything in the south. Also, 100 kinds of trap. Also, and this is the part that actually decides it, a kid begging strangers on a forum to save his parents. I go to my master for travel documents and get spoiled instead. Hong Hui Li issues me an inspector's patrol token, which makes my trip official sect business the moment anyone asks, and adds 2 toys from his vault. An ancient mask that rewrites my face and aura into whoever I invent, and a great teleportation talisman for the return trip. I invent a persona on the spot, a wandering senior with a pretentious Taoist name, Zhou Vast Heaven, mysterious expert, age unclear, patience limited. The mask settles over me like fog. My own mother wouldn't know me. My father would, but only by the cooking. The Yuanlong estate, when I arrive, is a bonfire waiting for a match. 10+ soul transformation raiders camped in siege lines, taking turns hammering the family's formation, negotiating with the subtlety of a battering ram. Realm-wise, every one of them outranks my official cultivation by a comfortable margin. None of them has an inner world. I walk up the siege road alone, let them gather into a nice, convenient audience of jeering, and then I stop hiding the Heart Force world. It doesn't strike them. It settles over them, the full weight of a private universe leaning down onto minds built for a smaller sky. 10-something soul transformation experts hit the ground in one synchronized clatter, pinned flat like laundry in a storm, eyes wide, entirely conscious, entirely unable to explain to themselves what is happening. I stroll down the line, collecting their storage rings and magic treasures into my pouch, item by item, the world's calmest mugging in reverse. Consider it, I announce to the road at large, a siege tax. The Xiao family watches from their walls as a masked stranger dismantles their apocalypse in 90 seconds and then asks, politely, if Xiao Minghao's mother might have tea. By nightfall, the whole Ni has a new legend. Lord Zhou Vast Heaven, do not touch his tea, do not ask about his fist. The legend travels fast, and it pulls in exactly the wrong audience. 3 days later, 2 figures descend on the estate with the arrival pressure of a different weight class entirely. Young, robes like moving weather, auras that make the local vultures evacuate a valley on principle. Geniuses of the 9 Immortals Ling Sect, the Holy Land of the far north, the sect my master mentioned once with actual respect in his voice. Su Jianchen, their number 1, a swordsman so composed he seems to be standing in a portrait at all times, and Bai Mingze, a grinning tank of a man carrying the overlord physique, a battle body from the old legends. They're here for the tomb, obviously. Everyone strong enough eventually is. The siege of manors lasts a week, and then the tomb decides for us, the estate's ancient formation, weakened by all that battering, finally exhales and falls, and the way underground stands open. We descend together in an atmosphere of extreme courtesy, 3 armed strangers sharing an elevator. On the way down, the last of the raider bands makes a final brave push behind us, 50-odd soul transformation cultivators charging the tomb mouth, and Su Jianchen, without turning around or interrupting his own sentence, flicks one sword wave back up the tunnel. The charge stops existing. Chickens and dogs, he remarks, which in Northern Genius means, pardon the interruption. The tomb of immortal Master Ziyang is a buried palace, and its heart holds 1 jade token glowing on an altar, the inheritance seal, keyed to a single worthy claimant. 3 claimants present. The Northerners propose the civilized solution, a duel. Their number 1 against the mysterious Lord Zhou. Winner takes the token, loser takes lessons. Su Jianchen's sword is the finest thing I've faced in this world, cleaner than the tournament, cleaner than the pagoda constructs. A lifetime of Northern Holy Land training compressed into edges. I give the duel the respect it deserves. Then I give him 1 fist with World Fist intent in it. The intent unrolls over the dueling ground like a horizon, and Su Jianchen, mid-technique, sword halfway through something beautiful, staggers, coughs a mouthful of red, and freezes. Not from the impact, from recognition. Zay stares at my fist like it's quoting scripture at him. His sect, it turns out, is built around the legacy of the one ancestor who comprehended this exact intent and ascended. Their entire Holy Land guards that fist like a relic, and in 800 years, not one northern genius has touched it. Zay concedes on the spot, puts up his sword, bows to the intent, and looks at me with an expression I can only describe as religious confusion. The token, however, comes with a landlord. As I lift the jade, the tomb's true secret uncoils. Immortal Master Ziyang never fully died. A remnant of his soul has been crouching in that seal for centuries, patient as mold, waiting for a talented young claimant to put it on and be worn. The remnant surges up to take my body, riding a prepared possession scheme with a whole blood spirit array cocked underneath the altar, centuries in the arming. Here's the problem with ambushing me. My mind isn't a house you break into, it's a world with weather. I bait him, let my surface thoughts wear the aura signature of my master's amulet, big, juicy Mahayana-flavored bait, and the remnant lunges for it, fully extending out of the seal, at which point the sky of my heart force world closes over him like a hand. There's a sound like a very old grudge being deleted, and then there's no more Immortal Master Ziyang, and his triple-layered, centuries-in-the-making possession scheme finishes its long wait as a light snack for a teenager's inner world. Somewhere below, the blood spirit array, having lost its owner, powers down with what I swear is embarrassment. The tomb, evicted, unfolds its actual treasury, Ziyang's private secret realm. And the old ghoul lived well, a spirit garden with 100 mature stalks of moon essence divine grass, glowing like a moonlight harvest, I needed one, plus a pond of creation spiritual liquid, 4 high-grade spirit treasures on racks, a bubbling spirit spring, and 1 gnarled tea tree whose leaves the system flags with rare enthusiasm. A bitterness tea tree, brews that wash the mind clear and once in a while wake up a talent. The universe pot drinks it all in, garden, pond, spring, tree, racks. I repot an entire Immortal's estate into my lunchbox. Bai Mingze watches the token, the duel, the ghost eating, and the landscaping, and announces he's changing his life goal to being present when I do things. Su Jianchen and I trade personal tokens at the tomb mouth, the northern kind, the kind that means, come to my sect as family. Zi tells me, with total gravity, that meeting me was the fortune of his generation. Then he says he sincerely wishes he had never come here, because his sword heart now has a crack in it shaped like my fist, and both of us know the crack is where the light gets in. Northern geniuses, even their compliments are duels. Home through the teleportation talisman, grass in the pot, family saved. Xiaoming Hao promoted to inner disciple on my recommendation and my quiet monthly stipend. And with the lunar herb finally in my furnace, the last gate before the next realm swings open, I break through to the peak of Great Grand Master. 6th treasure set burning like festival money. My stipend and dividends now roll in at 200,000 points a month, which sounds infinite until the system shows me its next price list. The red simulations, the tier where worlds stop being stories and start being scriptures, have a currency requirement. Immortal grade points. Fed by immortal grade wealth, immortal spirit stones, the money of the world above. Everything I own is, by that measure, pocket lint. Upper world, I think, adding one more line to a growing list. You keep coming up in conversation. While the wallet problem marinates, I keep compounding. A run of purple simulations pushes my mental energy to a place with no local vocabulary. Land Immortal Peak, the mind of a walking legend wearing the file of a promising teenager. And then it's time for the realist milestone of a cultivator's life. Forming the golden core. I do not form a normal one. Of course I don't. I fold the solar true fire seed into the condensation, and what crystallizes in my chi ocean is a core with no orifices at all. A flawless, sealed golden sun, the kind the classics describe with words like impossible, and then stop writing. The heavens notice. That's the design flaw of excellence. A heavenly tribulation forms. Here's the joke, though. My concealing heavenly secrets talent smears my location so well that the tribulation can't find me specifically, so it addresses the envelope to the whole sect. A continent-class thundercloud parks itself over all 36 peaks, and every disciple on the mountain looks up from breakfast into the underside of an apocalypse addressed to occupant. Enter the sect master. Ling Xuanzi, a man I have met exactly twice, both times ceremonially, rises off his peak with the star tower floating over his palm, considers the doom cloud the way a housekeeper considers dust, and turns the sect's founding treasure into the world's most majestic vacuum cleaner. The tower drinks the entire tribulation. Every bolt swallowed mid-strike. 10 minutes of sky-splitting judgment inhaled like noodle soup, and the cloud disperses with what I can only interpret as hurt feelings. I spend that evening rehearsing confessions. Master, funny story, the sky tried to build a sect for my golden core. But the forum beats me to the explanation. By midnight, the top thread is a lovingly argued theory that the sect's foundation is so profound it periodically milks the will of heaven for energy, and the tribulation was actually a harvest. 4,000 replies, elders liking the post. I close the confession draft and let the sect gaslight itself into being proud. The upgrade tour continues through my luggage. With golden core fire, I properly refine the trophies I've been hauling. The hornless dragon armor fits itself to my meridians. A captured heaven-escaping boat binds as my getaway vehicle. Cloud-treading boots settle onto my feet like opinions onto an uncle. And the next pink simulation deals me a world I recognize from Earth with a full-body shiver. A fog and gaslight city of secret churches and forbidden potions, where power comes in sequences and the price of it is your sanity. My simulated self climbs that ladder for a lifetime with an actual angel king in a monocle buzzing around his final decades like the world's most aristocratic mosquito. The payout rewrites my foundation, a pink-grade talent, innate ling seed, comprehension crystallized into a living seed in my mind. It swallows my old enlightened one whole and germinates something better. Then the simulator surfaces a world that makes me put my tea down. A cultivation cosmos I read as a novel in my past life, the mortal to immortal one, the long grind through the spirit realm, humans and Yao dividing a wild heaven. I lock it for 1,000,000 points without blinking, and my second life there goes off the main road entirely. Born on the Blood Sky continent, raised in the cheerfully sinister Bloodbone sect, my simulated self chases that world's mind arts. A Xuan-Chan-grade gourd, a 7-colored liquid, a lifetime of heists, and the mind itself breaks through mid-simulation into the realm that world calls body integration, a great power's spirit in a scholar's body. What comes home with me is the crown jewel of that cosmos, the refining spirit art, the supreme method for tempering mental energy, double, quadruple, eightfold, plus a pink talent called indestructible golden body. Flesh that reassembles out of ruin like an argument you can't win. The spree rolls on. A life in the Heaven Crow realm as a fire sparrow Yao, a small firebird in a clan that gets annihilated by actual golden crows, which my simulated self survives out of spite, and which teaches me more about that solar lineage I keep brushing against. A drop of Kunpeng blood crosses my path in that life too, a name that will matter later more than I can possibly guess. Talents keep upgrading like a hand of cards turning gold. Mirror flower water moon, pink, my presence in divinations reduced to reflections and rumors. Great luck holder, pink, eating my old luck blessing. And in a frozen world of the Horn Chi clan, the great cold realm, my simulated self commits the single most profitable burglary of my career, infiltrates their sacred range, carves through 9 defended peaks, and walks out with 3 Guanghan tokens and the first 3 layers of the refining spirit art mastered. The heist itself belongs in an opera. The Great Cold Realm is a fortress cosmos of eternal winter, and the Horn Chi clan sits at its center. Frost Titans, clannish, paranoid, guarding their 9 sacred peaks with array nets that haven't been breached in an age. My simulated self spends 30 years as the least ambitious outer servant in clan history, sweeping ice terraces, memorizing patrol rhythms, being nobody with a broom, while mapping every seam in their defenses through the mind arts nobody there can detect. Then, on the night of their centennial ancestor rites, when every elder is face down in ceremonial reverence, the nobody with the broom walks the seams. 9 peaks in one night. The vault of the first peak gives up its Guanghan token to a lock that never felt itself picked. The third peak's guardian beast, a moonfrost serpent the length of a river, gets fed 3 decades of carefully hoarded kitchen scraps and a scratch behind the frills because I'd been bribing it since year 2. By the 7th peak, the alarms finally trip, the sky fills with furious frost titans, and the servant they're looking for is already 2 peaks ahead of the search pattern he spent 30 years learning. I clear the 9th vault with the whole clan's war horns howling behind me, bow politely to the ancestral hall on my way over the wall, and leave exactly one thing behind. The broom, planted upright in a snowdrift like a flag. Clan records, the system informs me later, officially attribute the theft to a snow devil. The snow devil kept the tokens. My mental energy, compounding across all of it, touches Mahayana Peak. My mind now outranks my master. I check twice. It does. Back in the flesh, I hand the body its turn. 10 years of sealed retreat, the sect thinks I'm consolidating my core like a good boy, and technically I am, if you squint. Golden core hits its peak. And then I finally uncork the tournament prize I've been saving since I was 16, the Zhu Ling Essence Blood, the Vermilion Ape, the war god of the wilds. The true spirit, mysterious heaven transformation drinks the vial, and my body learns a second shape, crimson fur like burning wire, a frame that fills a courtyard, and the two royal arts of that bloodline arriving pre-installed, heaven and earth transformation, growing mountain tall at will, and 3 heads, 6 arms, which is exactly what it sounds like, and better than it sounds. When the transformation settles and I compress back into human shape, the system appraises my baseline flesh and files it under a category that shouldn't apply to meat, low-grade Ling artifact. My body is now, legally speaking, a treasure. I celebrate the way I always celebrate. I go bully the leaderboard. The Tongtian Pagoda coughs up floors 61 through 68 in an afternoon, the Tiger Trial on 67, a Chi Dragon construct on 68 that puts up the first honest fight of my decade. Floor 69 deploys a construct wielding a genuine Ling artifact, and I stop there, not because I'm out of tricks, but because the tricks I have left are the ones nobody gets to see. I bow to the floor and walk out on my own feet, leaving the record at 68. The duty elder on shift that day checks the board, checks my file, checks the board again, and has to sit down on the stairs. Golden core, the file says. Floor 68, says the board, a floor calibrated for realms he doesn't say out loud. I'm told he stared into the middle distance for an hour and then requested a transfer to archive work, someplace quiet, where numbers behave. Elder, honestly, fair. My paperwork has been lying to good people for years. My master hears about floor 68 and comes up my peak with wine and one word. How? I look this man in the eye, the man who gave me a home mountain, a fist lineage, and his only jade amulet, and I lie to him with love. Insights, master. The tomb duel unlocked something. The tea helps. Zay stares at me for a long moment, decides that geniuses are weather, and weather isn't questioned, and drinks. But the sect draws its own conclusion, and it's a beautiful one. Clearly, the boy's fist path is the real deal, so the sect vaults open sideways. Every fist inheritance the Yellow Court has collected in its entire history, 10,000 manuals and change, tribute arts, conquered arts, orphaned arts with no surviving lineage, all of it, free, poured onto my desk. The price is a promise. Someday, before I go wherever I'm so obviously going, I leave my own fist behind for the shells. Fair trade. 10,000 fists in, 1 fist out. Best publishing deal in history. Receiving that many arts takes a year even for my mind, a year of manuals flowing through the innate Ling seed like rivers into a delta. And while I study, someone across the continent decides to kill me. The Lapis Lazuli Treasure Temple, Western Buddhism's regional franchise, gold roofs, patient monks, long memory, has been doing arithmetic about the South. A fist prodigy with unheard of intents, a swept tournament, a rumored inner world. Abbot Jing Kong concludes that such a weed is best pulled young, and being a methodical man, he divines my movements first. He divines them with the mirror flower water moon talent in the way. The first ambush assembles in a mountain pass my divine self is certain to cross. 40 monks, formation flags, a sealed palanquin, 3 days of vegetarian rations. I am, at the time, at home, eating soup. The second divination triples the incense budget and produces an even more confident route. The temple deploys the abbot personally this time. Ze sits in a rainy gorge for 6 days. I'm at home, eating soup. The reports that filter back to us months later say Abbot Jingkong returned from the second trip visibly thinner, and that the word Guangli is no longer spoken at the temple before meals. They'll try again someday, and someday I'll have time for them. Put a pin in the golden roofs. Meanwhile, the realms fall like dominoes stood up decades ago. The saint body's 5th layer takes me to heaven and man peak. My nascent soul condenses at 21 inches. The classics list 9 as transcendent, and comes out dressed in a miniature Tao robe woven from my old core's discarded skin, which the system informs me is unprecedented, and I inform the system is fashion. And over the following 95 years, because time starts moving like that now, in harvest lengths, I walk up through soul transformation to stand at land immortal peak, the ceiling of the lower world, the place where mortals stop and myths begin. 100 years in the sect. The banquet they throw for my centennial fills 3 peaks. I buy myself a present, 8 million points, and a silver medal for the illusion-breaking divine eyes, vision that unpicks any veil, though the true high-grade artifacts on the sect's top shelf still sit behind a gold medal paywall. Some other century. My peak has become a place of pilgrimage by now. Disciples climb up for advice and stay for the bitterness tea, and the tea has developed a reputation, because every few months some outer disciple takes 1 cup, goes very quiet, and breaks through a bottleneck on the spot. The tea tree from Xiang's tomb has personally promoted more disciples than 3 elders combined. I keep its location secret. A man protects his staff. The sect politics version of me has also calcified into legend. Every quarter, the peaks meet to divide resources, and every quarter they invite the senior brother of Tianquan, and every quarter I send the same reply. Divide it yourselves, fairly, and no tricks, I'll check. I have attended 0 meetings. Tianquan Peak has somehow received the largest share 4 quarters running. My master says it's respect. Wang Chuan says the other peaks are scared of an audit that never comes. I say a complaint box with a legend attached is the finest administrative technology ever invented. Inside the simulator, I'm fighting bigger wars. A cycle of lives in the Mayfly clan worlds pushes the 9 Yang arts to major completion and the refining spirit art through its next layers. One life ends with my simulated self lifting an entire Xuantian grade treasure, the Swallowing Heaven Gourd, a calabash that drinks anything out of its dying world like a man rescuing a puppy from a flood. At the Guangdu Ling Fruit Assembly, a gathering of that cosmos's elites, my simulated self beats 2 true dragons in front of their patriarch, an old worthy named Jilin Zi, who reportedly retired from public life afterward to reconsider dragons. The assembly deserves its footnote too, because it's the pettiest fight of my collection. The Guangdu Ling Fruit Assembly is that cosmos's garden party of the century. Elites of every lineage, floating pavilions, Dao fruit served in jade, and the 2 true dragons in question are the patriarch's grand-nephews, azure-scaled aristocrats who spend the banquet loudly ranking the guests by bloodline and land on my simulated self's unremarkable human shell as the evening's entertainment. They challenge him to a friendly exchange on the honor platform, the way cats challenge a mouse to tag. The friendly exchange lasts as long as it takes 2 dragons to reach 1 human. The first gets caught by the tail mid-lunge and introduced to the pavilion floor with a sound that reseats the entire banquet. The second tries the dignified vertical retreat, discovers that height is just distance, and joins his cousin. My simulated self then returns to his seat and finishes his fruit, and the patriarch, old Jilinzi, a being who remembers when his lines' roars made oceans kneel, sits at the head table watching 2 true dragons get stacked like firewood by a nobody, and something in the old worthy's eyes quietly files for retirement. The demon realm lap that follows is less petty and more thorough, a punitive tour through a realm that had been raiding its neighbors, conducted door to door, at fist speed, until the raiding stopped being culturally viable. And at the end of 1 flawless simulated lifetime, my simulated self does the thing this whole world dreams about, faces the ascension tribulation and passes it, rises, touches the world above. The moment that life closes, my system does something new. It reaches into the settlement, tags the world my simulated self ascended into, and locks it, the true immortal realm. Filed under red, priced in the immortal currency I still don't have, sitting in my menu like a lit window in a distant tower. More lifetimes. The Kuei Cow blood from Grand Elder Yang finally meets the transformation art and grants its bloodline art, the thunderous roar, a bellow that is technically a fist. 50 more years, soul transformation solidifying to its middle stage in the flesh, while my catalog crests 5,000 mastered fist arts, and my talent lineup upgrades its crown, a pink monster named Invincible, multiplying my combat output tenfold, sliding into the slot matchless combat power kept warm for it, the stack on the stack, the interest on the interest. Somewhere in there, my master tries to check my cultivation the traditional way, palm to wrist, and his spiritual sense slides off my body like rain off a bell. Zi pulls his hand back, looks at his palm, looks at me, and says, proving forever that Hong Huili understands exactly what he adopted. Don't explain. If you explain, some Holy Land will hear the explanation, and I'll have to move there to guard you, and their kitchens are terrible. Deal, master. Then the whole continent's calendar flips to one event. The Crimson Cloud, Immortal Mansion. A legendary estate that surfaces from its hidden fold of space once every 10,000 years, opens its trials to the young and hungry, and sinks again. Every power on the map gets allotted entry tokens by ancient treaty. The Yellow Court holds 5. Whoever the mansion favors comes out with fortunes that redraw the balance of power for 100 centuries, which means every sect, temple, and court will be circling it like weather around a mountain, and it means the trip itself is the dangerous part. Our delegation solves security my favorite way. The sect master and my master both officially remain at the sect, deep in sealed retreat. Unofficially, both of them are sitting inside my universe pot playing chess in the tea garden, with the star tower parked next to the koi pond like the world's most excessive lawn ornament. I walk to the Apocalypse Lottery carrying 2 Mahayana powerhouses and a sect-founding treasure in my lunchbox. The lunchbox strategy has never once failed me. The qualifying grounds sort thousands of token holders through combat arenas. I take Arena 1, win my opening match in one motion, and then experience something new. 6 hours of scheduled matches in which nobody shows up. Challenger after challenger forfeits from the stands. The arena master keeps calling names into an increasingly awkward silence, while I sit on the platform drinking tea, undefeated by walkover, the only fighter in mansion history to qualify out of boredom. Reputation, it turns out, compounds faster than points. The mansion itself surfaces in the boundless sand sea, a golden wasteland where dunes migrate like herds and the horizon shimmers wrong. And in that shimmer, my oldest unpaid bill comes due. The lapis lazuli treasure temple has spent decades being humiliated by divination and has finally, sensibly, stopped divining. Instead, they've done it the artisan way, tracked the delegation physically, packed their foundational treasure, the Vajra-subduing pestle, a golden thunderbolt club that outweighs mountains and predates our sect, and built their entire ambush around one assumption, that the Star Tower travels with us and must be neutralized first. Which, to be fair, was true. The trap springs at dusk in the deep sand. Formation flags ignite across 10 dunes, sky sealed, sand fused to glass. And Abbot Jing Kong rises out of the desert, burning something no monk should burn. 10,000 years of his own cultivation, torched in one prayer. A lifetime of accumulation converted into a single suppression. The Vajra pestle comes down out of the clouds like a judgment and locks onto the Star Tower's aura the instant the sect master brings it out. Tower and pestle grind against each other in the sky, deadlocked, both monsters fully occupied, exactly as the temple planned. Their 2 Mahayana battle abbots, Jing Shan and Jing Bai, descend through the sealed sky toward the delegation's now undefended juniors, toward me specifically. Decades of failed ambushes have made me personal. Jing Shan arrives first, palm alight with golden script, aimed at the famous fist prodigy, who is, after all, merely soul transformation. And I decide the ledger on this temple has been open long enough. So the prodigy vanishes, and what meets the abbot's descent is the other me, the Juling war shape at full height, crimson fur incandescent in the dusk, 3 heads, 6 arms unfolding, 6 fists already in motion carrying 6 different intents, and every stacked multiplier I have ever banked firing at once. There's a sound the desert will remember. The combo connects along his center line like 6 bells rung in one chord. A Mahayana realm powerhouse, the rank my entire lower world calls untouchable, does not get up, does not retreat and regroup, simply, permanently, does not. The battlefield goes so quiet the sand stops. Jing Bai, the second abbot, stares at his brother's afterglow, then makes the last brave decision of his life. He swallows the temple's relic Sharira whole, detonating a saint's leftover power inside his own body, swelling into a wrathful golden giant to avenge the temple's honor. At which point the teapot on my belt pours out my master. Hong Hui Li has been listening to the whole ambush from the tea garden, and he arrives pre-annoyed. The old man takes one look at the situation, cracks his tree root knuckles, and joins me. And for one glorious minute, the desert night gets 18 dawns, my great sun intent and his stacked in overlapping suns until the sky is nothing but light. The wrathful giant meets all 18 and goes out like a candle in a foundry. Both battle abbots, gone in one ambush of their own devising. And the desert saves its best joke for last. The temple's own perimeter formation, the teleport ceiling net they raised to keep us from escaping, is still up, because its keyed masters are dead. It catches the fleeing remnant of their column like a fisherman's own net wrapping the fisherman. I don't even have to chase. The bill settles itself, with interest, under a formation stamped with their own seal. Above, the pestle versus tower deadlock resolves into diplomacy, because a third golden figure has arrived, Master Faji of the Bodhi Zen Monastery, Eastern Buddhism, the respectable branch, radiating the weary authority of a man whose cousins keep setting fires. Z mediates with admirable efficiency. The Lapis Lazuli Treasure Temple, having spent its abbot's cultivation, both war abbots, and its ancestral Pestil's dignity on an unprovoked ambush, will withdraw from the mansion opening entirely, and the matter is closed. The sect master agrees with the serenity of a man whose side is holding all the corpses. The loot alone rewrites our vaults. 2 Mahayana storage worlds, pocket dongtians stuffed with centuries of temple tribute, and 1 preserved lotus root of some ancient golden strain that makes the system hum a little tune. And then, finally, the dunes part, and the crimson cloud Immortal mansion rises out of the sand sea, terrace upon terrace of rose gold halls, a mountain of architecture wearing 10,000 years of legend, gates swinging open for the 10,000 qualifiers gathered below. Deep inside it, something is waiting for us. Not treasure, a person, sort of. The mansion's artifact spirit, steward of the estate, a prim ancient presence named Ling Qiyang, who has been running trials and grading candidates for 100 centuries, bound to this house until the standards written into him are met. Ling Qiang has been waiting 10,000 years for a worthy heir. I'm going to ruin this poor spirit's entire grading rubric. The first trial is an illusion labyrinth. The mansion reads your heart and builds a maze of your own longings, and candidates historically spend days wandering their perfect fake lives before clawing free. The record, held for 6,000 years, is an incense stick's time. I'm through in half a breath. Not because I'm passionless, because the maze needs to sneak past your mind to build the dream, and mine has a sky. Ling Qiang's disembodied voice reads out my time with the intonation of an accountant finding a negative number where no negative number should fit. Trial 2 is honest work. A battle platform and waves of condensed enemies, each wave harder, keep standing until you can't. The gallery of 9,000-something failed and waiting candidates gets to watch. Wave 10 retires most names. Wave 20 is where legends stop. I settle into the rhythm somewhere around wave 25. This is, and I mean this sincerely, the best gym I've ever used, and the gallery's noise climbs with the count. 30, 35, 40. The waves themselves are a museum of everything that world ever feared. Wave 12 is a battalion of armored void wolves that hunt by unmaking the ground you stand on. I stop standing on ground. Wave 19 is a single swordsman construct modeled on some ancient blade saint, and it's genuinely lovely work. We go 40 exchanges before I file him away. Wave 26 is psychological. The platform generates perfect copies of my own younger selves, Hut-era me, exam-era me, wide-eyed and 16, betting that sentiment will slow my hands. It doesn't, but I do take a moment between blows to tell the 16-year-old copy that the soup thing works out. Wave 33 is a tide of formation-linked shadow troops sharing one mind across 10,000 bodies, which against a mind power user is less an army and more a single large opinion, easily corrected. By Wave 40, the platform has stopped consulting its own catalog and started improvising, throwing hybrid horrors with no historical basis, and I can feel the trial's governing intelligence experimenting on me, not testing anymore, studying. Fair, I'm studying back. By Wave 41, the stands aren't cheering anymore, they're doing theology. And upstairs, invisible to everyone but me and my talent for hearing what watches me, the artifact spirit is having a crisis. Because Ling Qiang's rubric has a tripwire clause, the mansion's inheritance is for the young and rising, not for some old monster hiding in a young shell. A soul transformation junior fighting like this can't be real, his logic insists. This must be a reincarnated golden immortal cheating the age rules, and if that's proven, disqualification is mandatory. The spirit rewinds my file. Verified birth, verified century, verified leaky hut. The numbers all check, and the conclusion refuses to, and I can feel the poor steward aging in real time, which for a 10,000-year-old spirit is saying something. Wave 47 fields 5 top Mahayana constructs in a war formation. I take them apart the way my master taught me to eat crab, patiently, joints first. When the platform starts assembling Wave 48, I raise a hand and step off myself. Same policy as the pagoda. The ceiling I hit in public is always one I choose. First place by 22 waves over the second place finisher, who turns out to be a young Bodhi Zen monk with thunder in his shoulders and no grudge in his face, Faji's finest, and a name I make sure to remember because good monks are rarer than good treasure. That monk, bless him, is also a talker. In the gallery, he mentions my sect, loudly, admiringly, and the words yellow court hit Ling Qiang like dawn hitting a man who's been up all night doing taxes. The spirit manifests in front of me for the first time, a small, severe elder woven of rose gold light, and asks, with a tremor no artifact should have, about my sect's founder. Han Shuling, I say, the statue in Tianyu Hall, the one whose gaze goes past your head. The tremor becomes weather. The spirit composes itself, fails, composes itself again, and suddenly the mansion's hospitality tier upgrades around me mid-sentence. I'm reassigned to the Zhenyu Hall, the estate's honored guest wing that hasn't opened in an era, and a case rises out of the floor, holding a welcome gift the trial schedule never mentioned. The Extreme Emperor Gauntlets. Fist armor of deep amber metal, humming at a frequency my knuckles recognize as family. This, candidates, is called nepotism. And when it finally lands on your side of the counter, you say thank you. Because here's what I've started to assemble, and Trial 3 confirms it. The third trial is pure mind. The mansion projects the image of a gourd, an ancient bottle gourd wrapped in 9 seals, and asks you to comprehend it through visualization. The other candidates see a puzzle. I sit down, open the innate Ling seed, and see a signature. The gourd is a 9-9 soul-scattering gourd, a treasure out of the oldest legends. The mansion is crimson. The clouds carved on every lintel are crimson. Crimson cloud. Hong Han. The old ancestor Ziqing, the gentlest of the primordial mighty ones in every legend the simulations have let me read, the one famous for dying of his own kindness, whose true spirit escaped and reincarnated, and somewhere down that chain of lifetimes became a mild-eyed cultivator named Han Shuling, who founded a modest sect in a backwater world and carved his own statue gazing at something none of his disciples could see. My sect's founder is the reincarnation of a primordial power. This whole mansion is his estate from a previous cosmos-sized life, and its steward has spent 10,000 years running a talent search for someone fit to give it back to. I finished the gourd visualization in 2 hours. It should take years. The seals unfold in the mind like recursive scripture, and even with everything I am, I have to route the work through a locked simulation and live 6 straight years of contemplation inside an afternoon. When I open my eyes, Ling Qiang is frozen mid-hover, and I watch him do the spirit equivalent of rubbing his eyes. He rewinds the hall's time record and replays my 2 hours at quarter speed, looking for the trick. There's no trick, steward. There's just a machine you can't imagine, wearing a boy you can't explain. The Trial 3 prize breaks me a little, though. The offered menu includes the mansion's world core and the alternative, 1 million immortal spirit stones, currency of the world above. The exact fuel my system has been demanding for the red tier menu, the tier where the true immortal realm sits locked behind glass. Ling Qiang strongly hints the core is priceless and the stones are vulgar. Ling Qiang also mentions the truly supreme rewards unlock after Trial 5 for the final heir. So the core will keep. I take the vulgar stones. The steward makes a sound like a librarian watching someone dog-ear a first edition, and my system makes a sound I've never heard it make, which I can only transcribe as a cash register achieving enlightenment. 1 million immortal spirit stones, converted. The red menu unlocks with a chime I feel in my teeth, but red will have to wait one more trial because Trial 4 is the long one, the mansion's masterpiece. A door opens on an entire pocket cosmos, the Changlin realm, a wild world of ranges and rivers the estate keeps as a preserve, currently infested with a demon invasion the trial expects us to fight. 300 years on the inner clock, points for every demon slain, and the top 5 point holders advance to the final trial. 10,000 candidates funnel through the door into 3 centuries of war. 300 years in a fresh world, being graded on violence. Gentlemen, I've been training for this my whole afterlife. The Changlin realm assigns me to the 10,000 mountains front, a green ocean of peaks where the demon tide runs thickest. And it's there, in the first month, that I acquire the single greatest comedic asset of my 2 lifetimes. I'm crossing a river gorge when a Yao ambushes me from the water, a crocodile the size of a river barge, black gold scales, jaws like a city gate. Zay gets exactly as far as recognizing what he's bitten. Then he's on his back in the shallows with my boot on his chest plate, and this mountain of apex predator produces the fastest moral collapse I have ever witnessed. Great one. Great one. This humble Kanglin was testing your quality. Clearly you passed. Clearly this is fate. Has the Great One considered the benefits of a devoted aquatic follower? I press slightly. Za upgrades the offer to devoted aquatic follower who knows where everything in these mountains sleeps. That last part, unfortunately for my dignity, is valuable. So begins the partnership. And Kanglin, coward of cowards, turns out to be a strategic marvel. Because my new hunting method is fishing, we find a demon nest's waterway. Kanglin swims by looking fat, injured, and delicious. The nest boils out to eat him, and everything that chases him around the bend meets me. Za screams every single time. I ask him once why he still screams when he knows the plan, and he says, with real wounded dignity, that the scream is the bait, Great One. Commitment sells the product. I cannot argue with that. The points pour in like rain. Our masterpiece is the Black Marsh operation. There's a nest in the deep fens run by a Toad King with a bounty on him older than some dynasties, too canny to chase, never leaves his fortress of mud and bones. So Kanglin spends 6 days drifting past the fortress at sunset, looking progressively fatter and more injured each pass, performing a one-crocodile tragedy about a dying delicacy going to waste. By day 6, the Toad King's scouts are filing daily reports about the free meal. On day 7, the king himself comes out. Greed wins. Greed always wins, and pursues the sobbing entree around the agreed bend, where the entree's business partner is waiting with 6 fists and an invoice. Kanglin's scream on that one, I have to say, was his finest work. 3 registers, real tears, a dying fall at the end. When the splash settles, he surfaces next to me, checks that the Toad King is definitively past tense, and asks, panting, whether the performance seemed sincere. Sincere, I tell him, is the only thing you've ever been. Word of the masked human reaping the 10,000 mountains spreads through candidate and demon alike, and one trial taker comes to test it, Wei Yuxian, a phoenix-blooded princess with a firewheel and a reputation, who announces her challenge from the sky in full formal style. I flick her wheel aside with 2 fingers and set her down in a bush, unburned, unbeaten, in every way that matters, except all of them. She sits in the bush, recalibrating her worldview. Kanglin, from the river, applauds with both front legs, then apologizes to her, then to me, then to the bush. By the time I reach Linyuan City, the realm's fortress capital, where the native defenders and trial takers pool intelligence, I'm wearing the ancient mask and the old alias, Taoist Joe Vast Heaven, because fame is a currency, and I prefer unmarked bills. The city takes one look at my kill ledger and does something wonderful. They offer me the post of Great Protector. Ceremonial Supreme Guardian. All the status, a jade seal, a stipend, and, I check 3 times, no listed duties. Show up if the city is about to fall, otherwise be venerated. What good people, I tell Kanglin sincerely. What a beautifully managed municipality. Kanglin says the last 4 great protectors died heroically, and I choose not to hear him. One person in the city doesn't buy the act. Han Shuiyao, a silver-eyed local strategist whose family art reads Fates and Foundations, takes my measure over a diplomatic tea, and Sulil, rudely, mid-sip, runs a full divination scan on me. The mirror flower talent does what it does. Her art gets back a reflection of a rumor, the recursion loops, and the poor woman jolts back from the table with a thin line of red at each eye. I pass her a napkin and my sincerest recommendation, don't read strangers at tea. Some books bite. Between hunts, I finally spend the vulgar million, my first red simulation. The menu's descriptions at this tier stop being invitations and start being warnings, and I pick the one whose warning is longest. The world it opens is wrong in a way I feel in my back teeth, a cosmos of black oceans and geometry that argues, where the things that matter have never once noticed humanity, and sanity is a resource like lamp oil. My simulated self is born there, survives, and does the one thing I know how to do, builds a fist strong enough to matter. And that's the mistake, because in that universe, mattering is how you get noticed. The fist's completion rings across dimensions like a dinner bell, and the outer things, the blind idiot court at the center of everything, the sultan of chaos whose name the world won't let me keep, bear in their sleep. The planet my simulated self is standing on is erased, not attacked, erased, like a typo. I come out of that one and drink tea with shaking hands for an hour. The The system, sympathetic as ever, deposits my compensation, a 7th talent slot, and in it a red-grade colossus called Heavenly Array Master, the complete science of formations, arrays, and sealed space, downloaded from a universe where geometry is a martial art. I look at my new knowledge of world-grade arrays. I think about the phrase, erased like a typo. I resolve to be very, very careful which bells my real fist ever rings. The Demon War gives me somewhere productive to put the mood. The Tide's command structure turns out to be 2 brothers, the Demon Venerables Quishan and Lianyun, Mountain and Cloud, a linked pair whose combined formation combat rates at peak Mahayana. They've been baiting and eating trial takers for a century of realm time, and they set their trap for the famous Lord Zhou with real professionalism. A valley, a false retreat, a closing sky. I honor their professionalism with theater. For 30 exchanges, I fight like they're equal, strained, pressed, giving ground, letting the brothers taste the win and call in their 3 strongest lieutenants to seal it. 5 Mahayana-grade demons in one valley, formation locked, every exit closed, the trap fully sprung, every card on their table. Then I stop acting. The thunderous roar goes off first, the Kuei Cow's bloodline bell, point blank, staggering all 5 minds for one white half-second. In that half-second, the war shape comes out. 3 heads, 6 arms, 6 fists, each carrying a different intent, and my own contribution to the architecture, a space confinement slab from the Heavenly Array Master's catalog, dropped over the valley like a paperweight on a map so that nobody leaves early. 4 venerables are gone before the roar's echo returns from the far peaks. The 5th, Lianyun, gets 1 full second of understanding. I watch it arrive in his eyes, the whole recalculation, the century of eaten candidates, the shape of what actually walked into his valley, and then he joins the mountain half of the family name. The leaderless tide breaks against Lin Yuan's walls once and recedes into a single fortress hive, besieged and done. The realm's gratitude comes in numbers, 50 million trial points, a green silk magic robe off some ancient rack, and the pick of Kanglan's own fist inheritances, which I collect on principle. The Great Protector title, I'm informed, is now hereditary if I want it. Kanglan wants it. Kanglan has never wanted anything more. I tell him titles must be earned, and he immediately volunteers to scream at a higher pitch. The fortress hive isn't the end of the war, though. It has a landlord, too. Scouting the siege lines, my sense brushes something coiled behind the demon tide, far above it. A true golden immortal, a demon lord named Moyan Venerable, parked outside the Kanglan realm's walls like a wolf outside a henhouse, patiently using his invasion as a crowbar. He's not here for the realm. Zay's here for the same thing we all are, the mansion's final inheritance, the legacy of a quasi-saint, and he's happy to spend a demon nation prying at the seams. A golden immortal, the rank my strongest shape can't yet insult, noted, ledgered, and Rommel, like the golden roofs before him, view pinned for later, so I go build a bigger fist. 40 consecutive simulation runs, fist worlds only, back to back. The settlement screen totals it at 7 million years of accumulated practice, which is the kind of number you just have to stop looking directly at. And in the middle of the spree, the red menu deals me the world that changes my style forever. I know it before the first sunrise finishes. Black Plateau, 9 dragon corpses hauling a bronze coffin across the stars, the shrouding the heavens cosmos, the great novel of my past life's bookshelf, the age of emperors and forbidden roads. My simulated self walks it for an entire era under the name Longevity Heavenly Lord. Zay recites the Ling scripture until it recites him. Zay raises the King Kong too, tends the white tiger's undying medicine, trades scriptures with a snow-haired war king of the ancient, desolate holy body line, their body art for a look at the 6 paths reincarnation fist, the kind of swap that gets both parties audited by heaven. Zay walks fist first through an age that worships weapons, and when his road finally crosses the road of a true great emperor at the height of imperial power, the 2 of them shake the star sea for 3 days and nights and walk away even. A draw, with an emperor, on his home era. 3 days and nights, that draw. I want it on the record properly because it's the fight I measure every other fight against. Day 1 is technique, is imperial art against my 9 forms, exchanged across a dead star field with the courtesy of 2 calligraphers comparing hands, and by nightfall we've broken 11 moons between us and learned each other's grammar. Day 2 is escalation. He unveils the extreme weapon of his line, and I answer with the gauntlets, and the star seed develops a scar that navigators of that cosmos still use as a landmark. a straight, bright line where our exchange scraped the dark clean. Day 3 is the honest part, the part after technique runs out, two beings hammering at each other's foundations with nothing left but doctrine. His sun-bright imperial road against my compound interest of 1,000 worlds, neither giving a foot of sky. When we finally break apart at the third dawn, both coughing light, he starts laughing first. An emperor at his zenith, on his home era, against a stranger with no banner, and the ledger reads dead even. Z names me a friend of his court on the spot, which in great emperor terms is roughly a marriage proposal, and we spend the following decade trading arts like old smugglers. That's how the Six Paths fist truly settles into my furnace, not looted, gifted, from one respect to another. What comes home from that lifetime rebuilds me twice. First, a red talent called Myriad Ling Furnace. My comprehension becomes a smelter. Throw in any pile of techniques and it pours out alloys. And second, fed through that furnace, the 7 million year fist library finally collapses into one thing. My own art. Not inherited, not looted. Mine. The Myriad Realms Fist. 9 forms, each form the distilled verdict of 1,000 worlds' martial dead ends. Opening heaven, great sun, space-time, reincarnation, and up the ladder to the 9th form, world annihilation, which I do not practice indoors. My mental energy, riding the same wave, crests into true immortal grade. The mind of an immortal, still wearing the file of a soul transformation senior brother. My paperwork should unionize. Then I let the body catch up all at once. 20 full sets of 7th layer saint body treasures, hoarded across decades, burned in a single sealed month, and my cultivation base vaults clean through Mahayana to the peak of body integration. The heavens, which have been waiting years for a clean shot at me, finally get my address right and serve a heavenly punishment worthy of the crime. This time there's no sect master, no borrowed tower, no vacuum cleaner. I meet it with Form 9. World annihilation, upward. The punishment cloud, a county-sized engine of divine wrath, experiences what its victims usually experience, briefly and completely. The sky spends the next hour visibly deciding not to escalate, and I spend it reading my own status panel like a proud parent. 7 talents, all red and pink. 5 high-grade artifacts and 1 universe pot. 1 inner world with weather I like. 1 fist with my name on it. Of course, the flashier I get, the harder one silver-eyed problem stares. Han Shui Yao has never forgiven her bloody tea time, and she's been assembling the case the honest way. Logistics, timelines, the fact that Lord Zhou's tea tastes like a sect and his manners like a mountain. She finally corners me on the fortress wall with her conclusion. There is no Taoist Zhou vast heaven. I congratulate her on being the only detective in 2 worlds, and since the mask's work is nearly done anyway, I give her successor city a parting gift in lieu of explanation. The siege has to end sometime, so I end it. 1 strike. Shatter the realms, the 8th form, across the valley into the fortress hive. The mountain the demons hollowed out for a stronghold becomes a rumor of gravel on the wind, and the tide that was going to grind Kanglin for another century is over between one bell and the next. The realm's decade-long ranking drama also resolves itself in the fallout, in the pettiest possible way. The last surviving lapis lazuli trial taker, a bald prodigy who spent 3 centuries shadowing me for an opening, chooses the chaos to strike, and I don't even fight him. I flick him, 1 finger, up through the trial realm's exit membrane, where Mansion Law reads ejection as elimination. His scream Dopplers beautifully. For the record, I tell the wall, he was clearly a demon spy. Han Shuiyao writes it down with a completely straight face. I've decided I like her city. 2 young Taoist trial takers who fought decently at the siege get folded under my wing for the remaining years. The habit of picking up strays is, at this point, load-bearing. Moyan Venerable makes his move at the trial's last bell, and it's a clever one. He's spent the century seeding a clone through the realm's cracks, and it surfaces in my path wearing borrowed grandeur, announcing itself, and I am quoting a golden immortal directly, as my grandfather. The clone is 1/10 of the original, 1/10 of a golden immortal against present-day me, after the era of emperors, after the 9 forms. I crush it like a grape, and the trial credits me 5 million points for littering. The real Moyan, enraged, finally commits himself against the realm wall directly, and learns why you don't burgle a house with a live steward. Ling Qiang meets him in the passage personally, It is not a fight, it's an eviction, conducted by 10,000 years of pent-up administrative fury, and it is the happiest I ever hear the old spirit sound. Trial 4's scoreboard closes with my name on top at 10.63 million points. The runner-up sits at 20,000. On my way out, I hand my 4 captured Mahayana demon prisoners to the 2 southerners I rate most, Guo Cheng-kun of our own Yellow Court, and a stand-up Qian Yuan swordsman named Zibo Liang. The turn-in bounty lifts them to 2nd and 3rd place, which means the final trial's alternates are people who owe me and like me. The Lapis Lazuli contingent finishes 7th, off the podium, and their remaining elder's face achieves a shade the mansion's rose-gold palette really flatters. And the Trial 4 prize, when Ling Qiang hands it over, stops my heart for a full beat. A sealed vial of diluted kunpeng blood, quasi-saint essence. The bloodline of the demon master who outswims Cosmos. The same name that brushed my path in the Heaven Crow life, now sitting in my palm, one transformation away from being a shape I own. Before Trial 5, the mansion runs its final eligibility check, the one that killed candidacies for 100 centuries. The Reincarnation Mirror, which unrolls your soul's full history and disqualifies any old monster in young skin. Candidates file past it, revealing 2 lives, 5 lives, the occasional scandalous 12. The mirror looks into me and shows nothing. Native spirit, it declares, no prior threads. A soul with no reincarnation history at all, in a body the mirror reads as brand new. Well, yes, the soul walked in from another cosmos, and the body, I feel the mirror double-check this and quietly decline to elaborate, was rebuilt from scratch by something the mirror can't see. Ling Qiang accepts the reading with relief, first eligible finalist in 10,000 years. And that night, the mansion dreams. The crimson light over the estate thickens, gathers, and opens 2 sleepy ancient eyes, the awakened residual thought of the old ancestor Ziqing himself, stirred at last by a finalist worth waking for. The gentlest of the primordials looks down at me across the gulf of a dead cosmos, and smiles like my father used to when I brought home something interesting from the forest. Little friend, says the thought of Ziqing, let's talk inheritance. Trial 5, set by the ancestor's own hand, is comprehension at a scale the first 4 trials only gestured at. Inside the 9-9 soul-scattering gourd lives the Crimson Sands formation, Ziqing's signature array from the primordial age, a storm of grinding scarlet that once gave actual saints pause. My task is to understand it, not survive it, understand it, thread by thread, until the storm would take me for its author. I hear Ziqing and Ling Qiang murmuring odds behind the light. The ancestor allows 300 years. The steward, feeling generous about me, argues I might do it in 80. They settle in to wait like grandfathers at a fishing hole. I do my usual crime. The system's red catalog has held the true immortal realm on layaway since the Ascension life. I pay the locking price, run a tailored lifetime aimed at Formation Dao with the heavenly Array Master talent as a lens, and let a century of simulated study compress into an afternoon. Half a real day after the trial opens, I knock on the gourd from the inside and recite the Crimson Sands formation back to its maker, including Nashu, and this is what makes the old thought go quiet. Mashu's 2 seams where the primordial original could be tightened. The silence lasts a long time. Then Ziqing starts laughing, the warm rock-slide laugh of someone who died once and finds everything after it funny, and Ling Qiang files my result using a word I choose to translate as irregular. The Trial 5 reward is alive. Out of the estate's deepest vault, the ancestor brings a sapling, a hand-tall cutting of green so deep it looks like concentrated springtime. Jianmu. The Jianmu, the ladder between heaven's tree of the oldest cosmology, the trunk that once connected earth to sky, reduced by an old war to this one surviving shoot. It goes into my heart force world, and over 4 years of careful refining, it roots at my inner world's exact center and becomes its axis. And my world, which was a promising landscape with weather, graduates into a cave heaven with a spine of divine timber and its own patient green heartbeat. The leftover amber seal fragment the sapling traveled in, Ziqing waves off as packaging. The system melts it down for another 1.2 million immortal points. This family's garbage is my treasury. Trial 6 is the last exam, and it's the deep one. The gourd carries 47 primordial interdictions, sealed laws, each one a compressed thesis on how reality argues. Comprehend any 10 within 1,000 years, says Si Ching, and everything I have is yours. I go get my 1,000 years from the machine. The simulation I lock for it is the long dust of the shrouding the heavens cosmos again, but earlier, deeper, the eras historians of that world call the long red dust, and I live it as a road. Listen to what one lifetime holds when a lifetime is a geological era. My simulated self duels the limitless celestial venerable above a sea of stars and winds, breaks the chaotic body, that era's unkillable prodigy, and teaches him the word almost. Hunts the 9 secrets, the forbidden character arts of that cosmos, and collects 8 of the 9, each one a full revolution in my furnace. Forges his own great emperor weapon, scarlet gauntlets folded from 9 tributaries of immortal gold, quenched in the corona of a captive sun. The chaotic body duel alone would headline any other lifetime. That era's unkillable prodigy, a being whose flesh reverts every wound the instant it lands, who has never once needed to dodge, who fights like a man reading a boring book, meets my simulated self above a frozen sea and spends the first hour winning by default, healing through everything, yawning through intents that unmade lesser legends. So I stop wounding him and start teaching him. Every strike after that carries the space-time seed, damage delivered slightly out of order, injuries arriving before their causes, his miraculous flesh healing wounds that then happen again and again, one beat behind their own repair. By hour 3, the unkillable prodigy is experiencing, for the first time in his existence, the concept of losing ground, and by hour 5 he calls the stop himself. Not beaten, he insists, just newly interested in the word almost. We part as pen pals. His letters are terrible. I keep them all. And the forging of the gauntlets, that's a decade I'd relive for pleasure. 9 tributaries of immortal gold, each one begged, won, or outright burgled from a different corner of the star sea, folded together in a furnace fed by a captive sun over 3,000 days of hammerwork. The last quench is the famous part. The classics of that world say emperor weapons must be tempered in tribulation lightning, and I decided lightning was for people without options, and dipped the blanks into the corona of the sun itself. The sun objected. The gauntlets drank the objection. When they came off the anvil, the furnace bowed, refuses every orthodox road and proves the ling by strength alone, fist against heaven's veto, and when the world's own heaven's heart seal descends to object, he suppresses it under one palm and finishes his sentence. The era that follows is unrecognizable, because with the seal held down, proving the ling stops being a one-per-range monopoly, and for the first time in that cosmos's history, multiple living emperors share one sky, drink at one table, and blame me for the seating chart. And around the wars, a life. My simulated self takes one disciple, a sun-natured foundling who grows into the sun-holy emperor and will someday sleep his long sleep in a pagoda I have personal plans to visit. Z befriends a fat Taoist tomb robber named Tian Yu, a man who has stolen from so many graves he gives professional feedback on burial layouts, and who tries to steal my simulated self's boots on 3 separate occasions across 2,000 years, earning a friendship neither of them ever admits to. The friendship's founding incident goes like this. Tian Yu, professional grave botherer, identifies my simulated self's residence as an unusually well-appointed tomb, an honest mistake, I built it brutalist, and spends a full night disarming what he believes are burial wards while narrating his own genius in a whisper. The wards are my doorbell. I let him get all the way to the tea room where I am sitting with 2 cups poured, and the great tomb robber of the age walks in, sees the occupant of the tomb alive and expecting him, and offers, without missing a single beat, to sell me back my own doormat as a protective talisman. I buy it. It's the best doormat I've ever owned. From then on, he visits every few decades, steals something small and ceremonial, and leaves something stolen from someone more interesting in its place, and we both pretend the other one hasn't noticed the exchange rate slowly drifting in my favor. Z1 punches the Golden Spirit Emperor across a galaxy for touching his disciple. Z splits the Mount of Immortality open, the whole forbidden mountain, cracked like a walnut, to transplant the tea tree of enlightenment for his garden, where the tree spends subsequent centuries psychologically tormenting his other prisoner, a 5-colored phoenix who used to be an undying emperor and now molts with stress, which my simulated self rules is between the 2 of them. The feud is a masterpiece of horticultural cruelty. The tea tree, being enlightenment itself in plant form, has discovered that its shade induces involuntary, honest self-reflection, and it positions its branches every single day so the shade falls exactly on the phoenix's perch. The phoenix, a being who was once an undying emperor, who once made starfields kneel, now spends its mornings being made to sincerely contemplate its life choices by a smug shrub and molts about it. It has petitioned me 40 times for a perch relocation. The tree has filed 40 counter-petitions in falling leaves arranged in the shape of arguments. I ruled once, early, that the garden governs itself, and I have never regretted a policy more or enjoyed one's consequences longer. She learns to fold a divine thought avatar, a second self of pure mind. She dies, at last, at 100,088 years old, in his third life of that world, in the garden, mid-argument between the tree and the bird, smiling. I open my eyes in the gourd. Outside, less than one real day has passed. Inside my furnace, 11 of the 47 interdictions lie comprehended, one over quota for style. Ziqing doesn't even pretend to check my work. What follows is the actual inheritance, and it turns out inheritances at this altitude are mostly debts with a bow on them. The ancestor's thought sits me down, pours tea that exists only in metaphor, and opens his books. 4 karmas, 4 old wounds. 1. His death was a murder. The demon master Kunpeng, the same bloodline sleeping in my prize vial, betrayed and killed Ziqing in the primordial age for his treasures. 2. His reincarnation road has been jammed ever since. An old power of the Blood Sea, Ju Ming, holds the blockade out of ancient spite. 3. The Western 2 saints owe his lineage a saint's seat, borrowed in the primordial age and never returned, and compound interest on a saint debt is a terrifying number. 4. His greatest treasure, the purple mist of Hong Meng, the raw stuff of foundational enlightenment, was lost in the fall and is out there somewhere, unclaimed. Ze asks nothing today. Ze asks it of the road ahead. When I stand at quasi-saint, kill Kunpeng, settle the rest as the chances come. I take the terms the way you take a family name. And then the witness arrives, because a contract like this gets notarized. Space folds politely, and in steps a mild elder with a whisk and the specific gravity of someone the primordial age called neighbor, Shu Tianyang, master of Wuzhuang Temple, keeper of the ginseng fruit trees, Ziqing's oldest friend. Zi checks the terms, seals the karma transfer with a touch, and then, in the manner of old men at a beloved junior's graduation, overgifts catastrophically. 3 ginseng fruits, the fruit of 10,000-year legend, each one a foundation-remaking dose of pure longevity Tao, and the deed to the mansion itself, the Crimson Cloud Manor, which folds down into a palm-sized token and turns out to be a middle-grade innate spirit treasure, an artifact from before the world had corners. On top of it all, unasked, he layers a courtesy over my secrets, a veil of his own authority, so that beings of his altitude glancing my way will see a promising junior and feel a mild, unexplainable urge to mind their own business. I am now, formally, the closing disciple of the old ancestor Ziqing, heir of the Crimson Cloud estate, holder of 3 fruits I'm afraid to store near my kanji pot. Oh, and the gourd wakes up. The 9-9 soul-scattering gourd has had a spirit napping in it all along, a proud crimson wisp calling itself the Scarlet King, who slept through the entire succession and comes to mid-transfer, discovers the estate has a new owner, and runs the full 5 stages of artifact grief in about a minute. Denial, outrage, a demand for credentials, a horrified review of my trial times, and finally, upon reading what my mind looks like from the inside, a conversion so total it's embarrassing. By evening, he's reorganized my storage rings, drafted a household anthem, and taken to announcing me when I enter rooms I own. I've told him to stop. Z's downgraded to announcing me in a whisper. The trip home comes with pest control. 3 elders of the Heavenly Demon Palace, the Northern Dark Path outfit that's been probing the South's borders while its strongest were away at the mansion, pick our returning delegation as a soft target. It's the least suspenseful ambush of my career. 3 Mahayana demons attack a lunchbox containing 2 more Mahayanas and a man who now bare-knuckle boxes with heavenly punishment. I don't even wake the passengers. 3 fists, 3 verdicts, and the Heavenly Demon Palace's southern expansion strategy converts into 3 unclaimed storage rings on a trade road. Home, the sect loses its collective mind over the mansion hall, and the sect master makes a decision with no precedent on the books. The Yellow Court confers on me the title of Saint. Not senior brother, not elder, Saint of the sect, a rank invented above the org chart, ratified by Han Shuling himself. The ceremony rings the great bell 81 times, once for each hall, and the whole mountain range answers. And there I stand, bowing to our mild-eyed founder, receiving sainthood from the reincarnation of the primordial ancestor whose closing disciple I secretly already am. Han Shuling has no idea he's my senior brother's former self. I have every idea. The Scarlet King in my sleeve is vibrating with the effort of not announcing it. That evening, I drink with Hong Hui Li on Tianchuan Peak, and my master, who watched a barefoot exam kid become a saint inside 2 centuries, mostly just refills my cup and grins like the harvest came in. And far away, on a peak I won't see for years, 2 old Taoists play chess in the clouds. I only learn of this conversation much later, but it belongs here. Han Shuling, placing a stone, remarks that the south suddenly weighs more than it should. His guest, a true person named Fu Shi, of a certain famous Golden Light cave, places his own stone and murmurs that the weighing is early, that an event is coming for which pieces are being set, and that some pieces appear to be setting themselves. Both of them look south. Neither of them says my name, because neither of them can find it in a divination. I'd apologize for the fog, gentlemen, but you'll both thank me eventually. The centuries that follow are the deep breath before everything. My heart force world, fed by the Jianmu axis, matures into what the old texts call the existing things realm, an inner world with true ecology, self-sustaining, real in every sense that matters. I spend 300 years refining the Trial 4 vial, and the True Spirit Mysterious Heaven transformation pays out its masterpiece, the true Kunpeng body, the shape of the demon master himself, fish in the deep that is a bird in the height, wings that treat oceans as runway. The first flight in that shape is a memory I keep filed under religious experiences. I take it out over the empty Western Ocean at midnight, and the moment the transformation completes, the ocean stops being big. 90,000 miles in a wing beat, the old texts say it like poetry, and it turns out to be engineering. 1 stroke, and the coastline I launched from is a rumor behind the curve of the world. Down in the deep water form, whole trench ecosystems part around me like beaded curtains. Up in the sky form, I overtake the dawn, then lap it, then fly alongside my own sunrise for the pure childish joy of racing weather. Somewhere over the drowned mountains, I catch myself laughing in a register that shakes fish stunned to the surface for miles. 2,000 years of careful masks, and it takes a borrowed shape the size of a province to remind me. Under all the ledgers and lifetimes, I'm still the kid who whooped the first time his boots left a roof. The irony is not lost on me. To keep my promise to kill Kunpeng, I first became fluent in Kunpeng. Know your enemy, then be him, then exceed him. My flesh cultivation rises to the peak of tribulation transcendence, and I hold it there, deliberately suppressed. Because the second trial line I'm now living, Qin Qian Kun's token, still waiting in the treasury, has an entry ceiling, and I intend to walk under it, not over it. The simulator keeps mining strangeness. An orange tier world, my first at that grade, turns out to be another wrong geometry cosmos, this time a laboratory, something vast running experiments with my simulated self as culture sample. The lasts 25 days, which the system assures me is a record. The payout opens an 8th slot and fills it with an orange talent whose name I read 5 times, the one that escaped. Effect. I am unreadable. Not fogged, not mirrored, outside the index entirely. Fate sight, karma tracing, divination, the passive omniscience of saints, all of it returns file not found. Even the beings who once glanced at concealing heavenly secrets and squinted will now look straight through me. Paired with the rest of a lineup that's gone fully red, proving Ling with strength, multiplying my fist another 30-fold, the eternal body, the myriad Ling furnace, the heavenly array master, and a space-time talent called Child of Time and Space, my status panel now reads less like a cultivator's file and more like a natural disasters insurance claim. Which means it's finally time to pay the Golden Roofs a visit. The Lapis Lazuli Treasure Temple has spent the decades since the desert wisely. They've evacuated the entire sect, halls, treasury, monks, grudges, into the interior world of the Vajra subduing Pestle, their unbreakable ancestral treasure, and sealed the door. From inside their Thunderbolt fortress, they've resumed sending curses, hired blades, and letters of theological complaint. So I knock. I offer them a wager, formally witnessed by the Bodhi Zen monastery. Send out your best, any number, any method, or, alternative clause, I open your treasure like a nut, and we settle everything today. They choose to trust the pestle. Everyone always trusts the pestle. I crush it bare-handed. No forms, no intents, no transformation. That's the point being made. Just grip and the provingling multiplier and the slow, bright sound of the indestructible relic of Western Buddhism folding like foil until its inner world stands roofless under my shadow. Then I suppress the entire temple at once, every monk, every elder, pinned under the heart force sky, and I go through them one at a time with the karma sense the inheritance sharpened. The guilty I send on. Abbot Jing Kong of the burnt 10,000 years, War Provost Jing Tong, the diviner Yichen Yuan who picked my name out of the stars all those years ago, and the informant who sold my first travel schedule. 4 karmic debts, 4 dispatches to the wheel of reincarnation. May their next lives feature better hobbies. The rest, the cooks, the novices, the scripture copyists whose only crime was enrollment, I release, unharmed, with their sect treasury docked as a processing fee. As the last debt settles, the void tears. A palm descends out of the far west, golden, calm, continental, the long reach of a true bodhisattva of the upper heavens, Samantabhadra by the sword lotus sigil, extending a claim of protection over what remains of the temple's lineage. A being of that altitude, touching my afternoon. And something in my sleeve answers before I do. The keepsake token, Qin Qiankun's token, which I've long since stopped leaving in treasuries, flares, and a shroud of 9 golden dragons unfurls over the sky like an older law, and the descending palm burns against it, holds one heartbeat, and withdraws. The void closes politely. I stand very still for a while, then I take the token out and look at it. Really look, with everything I now am. And the token, apparently deciding I've finally earned the reveal, unfolds. Not a keepsake, a door. And behind the door, filling the space behind space like the original sky, a bell. Bronze beyond bronze, chaos patterned, vast in a way that reuses the concept of vast. The chaos bell, the primordial treasure of legend, one of the anchor artifacts of creation itself. And the golden will inside it, the presence I've known for centuries as Qin Qiankun, steps out of the modest sunlight costume and stands revealed at full glory, the residual will of Yuanhuang Fuxi, emperor of the primordial demon court, sovereign of the golden crows. The being whose name the histories of every world I've simulated speak in the tone reserved for extinct suns. I did 50 years of homework in 2 days for the Eastern Emperor. Ze watched me haggle. Ze watched me feed his golden chi to my garden. The second trial, his voice says, and the bell swallows the world. Inside is war, the true imprint of the witch-demon war, the primordial cataclysm, preserved in the bell's memory like insects in amber, and my trial is to fight it. Wave upon wave of the ancient dead, witch-clan titans whose steps are earthquakes, demon court golden immortals in formations of star banners, the compressed violence of the age that broke the first world. I fight through eras of it. And at the end, the memory saves its masterpiece, an imprint of the archer, Yu She. The bow that shot suns rises across the dead sky, and the arrow it releases isn't matter or chi, it's a thought of world rank, killing intent refined past physics, and it goes through every defense I own, like winter through a window, and kills me. Technically. The arrow thought detonates against the heart force sky. My world shudders to its Jianmu roots and holds, and I hold, heart stopped for one educational instant, and then the trial bell rings the end. I keep the arrow. That's the detail Fuxi's will finds funniest. Rather than let the imprint dissolve, I catch the world rank killing thought and seal it, still snarling, in a quiet cell of my inner sky. For study, one does not waste a masterclass. The rewards come down like an era settling its estate. The true method of solar true fire. The whole solar canon my seed has been waiting centuries for. A living branch of Fusang, the sunroost tree. Vials of primordial witch blood for the transformation library. And the centerpiece, presented by the will with both hands. Fuxi's own essence blood. The blood of the Eastern Emperor. The path of the Golden Crow true body. Not the diluted lineage of that fire sparrow life, but the imperial original. And then, Yuanhuang Fuxi's will looks at me, through me, at where the system hums behind my existence, and says the quiet thing out loud. Zi has watched countless prodigies across 2 cosmos, he says. I am not a prodigy. I am a variable. The one thing his age's endless calculations never priced in. The one that escaped. He uses my talent's name like he's reading a label the universe printed. Then the warning, weighted like a bell strike. The world above watches its doors. Master that talent completely before you ascend, little variable. Walk through the sky gate as a blank page, because something up there is very good at reading. I take the warning seriously. 100 years of sealed retreat, and the curriculum is invisibility as a fine art. The one that escaped already makes me unreadable, but unreadable is itself a reading, if the watcher is clever. A hole in the shape of a man. So I learn to fill my own hole with scenery. Layered, hand-fabricated divination results. Forged fates stacked like theater flats, so that anyone scrying me finds not silence, but a boringly plausible cultivator with a boringly plausible future, mildly fortunate, fond of soup. I test the forgeries against the finest fate arts in my collection, until my fake self can pass a saint-grade audit. Then I eat the first ginseng fruit, because a forger needs a steady hand. The fruit's longevity Tao washes through my foundation, silts every crack, and quietly removes death by old age from my list of scheduling concerns. Then I stop suppressing the flesh, and the heavens get their long-awaited rematch. The Mahayana tribulation that forms over my little bamboo peak is, by every record the sect keeps, the largest in the history of the South. It takes half a year to finish assembling. A cloud continent of judgment, layered with lightning refined into the shapes of history's masters, hundreds of thunder-wrought sages and war kings, the heavens' full curriculum of everyone who ever mattered, all pointed at one man who ate a fruit and stopped hiding. Disciples evacuate 3 mountain ranges. Elders set up viewing platforms at what they hope is a safe distance, which is adorable. The cloud finishes its half-year of throat-clearing. I look up at the assembled might of heaven's judgment, at the thunder effigies of ancient masters drawing their thunder weapons, and I inhale. The swallowing heaven gourds art, the grand ling appetite I've carried since the mayfly lives, opens in my chest like a second horizon, and the entire tribulation, cloud continent, lightning sages, 6 months of accumulated wrath, goes down my throat in one long swallow. The sky above the peak is suddenly, ringingly blue. Somewhere on the viewing platforms, I'm told, a peak lord sat down on the ground. 2 elders' Tao hearts audibly cracked. The sect infirmary logged it. Treatment, lying down while facing a wall. The forum thread about it gets locked by moderators within the hour, on grounds of theological panic. In my chi ocean, the swallowed tribulation settles in beside the solar true fire seed, which chooses this moment to finish fusing with the true method, and my fire stops being a seed and becomes a sun in residence. Mahayana, realm of my master. 200 years, give or take, from the leaky hut. The panel's evaluation line reads, acceptable pace. The system is the only being in 2 worlds not impressed with me, and honestly, it keeps me humble. The neighborhood, meanwhile, refuses to stay quiet. Chen Xuanji, the Saber Peak Lord who once tried to recruit me, a good man with a hard road, faces his own great tribulation that decade, and something ancient uses it as a door. Out of his thunder comes a stowaway, the remnant of an Asura of the golden immortal rank, and not a nobody, a daughter of the great Brahma himself, the Asura sovereign of some higher battlefield, her spirit shard riding the tribulation's karma like driftwood, hungry for a body. She takes one look at the Saber Lord's battered soul, then at the much shinier existence 2 peaks over, and makes the last poor decision of a very long life. She comes for mine. She gets as far as my courtyard. I don't even stand up from the tea table. The heart-forced sky closes, the existing thing's realm treats her like weather treats smoke, and a golden immortal's final remnant becomes a brief educational pressure between my world and its horizon. What she leaves behind surprises me, though, as she unravels. Something clean and heavy settles into me. Merit. The genuine article, the golden bookkeeping of the cosmos, apparently paid out for deleting a fugitive the higher heavens had unfinished business with. First installment of a currency I suspect matters enormously upstairs. And because her father is the kind of entity who checks on his children, I spend that evening forging the paperwork, a layered fate image showing his daughter's shard dissolving peacefully into a random tribulation, tragic, nobody's fault, no forwarding address. Somewhere above the sky, great Brahma divines the scene, grieves appropriately, and files no complaints. You're welcome, courtyard. Then, with the household quiet, I go spend the mansion fortune on the biggest simulation of my existence. Red tier, locked world, the shrouding the heavens cosmos again, but this run opens with a hook the menu has never shown me. My previous lives there persist. The scarlet gauntlets my emperor self forged, left masterless for eras, have been searching that universe for their owner's return. The new life begins with me as an infant in a nameless village, and before my first winter, 2 amber meteors fall out of legend and park themselves over my cradle. My gauntlets found me. There are worse ways to be born than pre-armed. That lifetime becomes the stuff that cosmos will tell wrong for the rest of its history. The returned immortal venerable, they call me. I shelter the young Taiyin emperor through the era that should have killed her lineage. When the sea of reincarnation, that world's oldest trap, the drowning wheel of souls, moves against what's mine, the gauntlets and a 5-colored phoenix I have history with carve the sea out of the map, a subtraction visible from every star. A supreme named Du Tian fakes his own death to slip my ledger. I let him enjoy the funeral, then crush him at the reception. I want the Du Tian funeral preserved in detail because it's the finest comedy that cosmos ever staged for me. The man fakes his death beautifully, a doomed last stand against a star beast, witnessed by 3 sects, mourned in 9 regulations, his Tao robe recovered artfully scorched. The memorial is lavish. Delegations arrive for a month, and I attend, in respectful gray, and sit through the eulogies, and even contribute a wreath, because the condemned deserve good theater. Then, at the reception, while his secret self watches through a puppet servant's eyes to savor his own mourning, I stand, tap my cup for attention, and address my condolences directly to the puppet. By name. His real one. The silence that follows is the most expensive silence I have ever purchased, and what happens to Du Tian after the guests stop screaming is exactly what was always going to happen, just with better catering. The great Peng of that age severs parts of his own self to escape karma with me. I explain, with my fists, that self-editing doesn't clear debts, it just makes the debtor lighter. I prove the Ling by strength for the 2nd time in that universe. The Heaven's Heart seal doesn't even come out to object this time. We have an understanding. And deep in the era's endgame, I claim the 2 relics every emperor of that world died reaching for. The bronze immortal palace, the corpse-quiet fortress that wanders the star sea. I board it, hold my breath at what sleeps inside, and take the deed by right of being the only visitor it can't digest. And the Mother Chen of all things, the primordial ingot of pre-creation substance, which I find in a vault I recognize, behind wards I recognize, because carved beside it in the stone, in handwriting I know better than anyone alive, is a note from a previous simulation's me. Odd changes, even doesn't change. My own graffiti, left eras ago as a math joke, has become that universe's holiest riddle. Entire monastic orders have formed around interpreting my doodle. One of those orders is headquartered where a certain future emperor named Qin will someday park his bronze chariot. And I make a note in the margin of history. When that kid shows up, somebody charge his Mercedes a parking fee. Trust me, it'll be funny in about 9 eras. I split the Mother Chen in 2, half for the palace's forge, half folded away for a project I can feel coming, and settle into the long study that lifetime exists for. Time, space, the 2 locked doors of the fist. With the child of time and space talent as tuning fork, and a universe of imperial arts as reference, my simulated self grinds both open across 10,000 years of retreat. The time fist intent, punches that arrive before their throwing, and the space fist intent, distance as a rhetorical device. In the same stretch, I wrestle that world's chaotic body inheritance into a settled 5th life form the texts call the mortal physique, supreme flesh disguised as ordinary flesh, the body cultivation mirror of everything I've ever done socially. My mental energy climbs to the late profound reaches of that cosmos's scale. The one prize that stays unripe is in the transformation pool of the old demon court. The chaos lotus hasn't budded this era, and some harvests you cannot rush. So before the lifetime closes, I do something I've never done in a simulation. I build for the future. A signal formation, woven from the heavenly array master's deepest catalog, keyed to my soul's frequency, buried where no era will trip it. A doorbell in a universe I fully intend to revisit. Because these aren't stories anymore. I've stopped pretending they ever were. The lifetime isn't even done with me. In its long middle acts, I cross paths with the godly silkworm's sacred emperor, the moth-robed ancient whose lineage dies and remakes itself, transformation by transformation, 9 sleeps toward divinity. We trade scriptures the way old monsters trade recipes, and I end up minding his lineage's most precious egg through a dangerous era, standing guard over a sleeping cocoon while its clan's enemies learn what my patience costs. When the silkworm line achieves its unprecedented 11th transformation, one past their own mythology, the old emperor credits my scripture trade for the margin, and I credit his entire existence for something bigger. Because watching a being live by dying, shedding self after self while remaining himself, is the missing lecture in my study of time. Time and space stop being too intense somewhere in my 6th life of that world. I spend that life and the 7th both, decades of them inspired directly by the silkworm's rhythm, folding the 2 doors into one doorway, and what comes out is the space-time fist intent, a single unified thing, punches thrown in when and answered in where. The child of time and space talent, which I'd always assumed was a passive, turns out to have been waiting for exactly this. It wakes up under the fused intent, like a dog hearing its actual name for the first time, and reveals its hidden depth. I don't just resist causal tampering now. I get to do some. The Kirin Saint Emperor's inheritance crosses my road too, the earth-shaking sage of that world's oldest hills. And from his line I take the technique of the Holy Spirit, the art of tempering a soul until it stands independent of flesh, a stone-hard spirit that endures what bodies can't. I leave a marker of my own beside his, a jade stone on Kunlun, inscribed and sealed, one more doorbell in a universe that's collecting them. And the 8th life is the failure I'd been quietly courting. I attempt the thing the simulator has never let me test, sending the mind itself through that world's reincarnation, mental energy diving into the wheel and climbing back out intact. It doesn't work. The wheel strips more than I planned, the life goes sideways, and I spend it as something small and slow, with a long time to think. But drowning in the wheel teaches the shape of the water. I come out the far side with the insight of the reincarnation ling braided into my mind, the one Tao you can't learn from above. My final tally in that universe, when the simulation at last rings its closing bell. 8 lives, 2 ling provings, 1 visible galaxy scar, several religions I started by accident, and a recorded age at death of 869,087. The system's settlement screen takes noticeably longer than usual, like a waiter totaling a banquet. Real world. My courtyard. The tea's still warm, outside, days, inside, most of 1,000,000 years. The settlement pours through. The space-time fist intent seats itself among the 9 forms like a keystone. The reincarnation insight crystallizes, and the child of time and space talent locks fully awake into its slot, no longer a passive but a license. My mental energy, digesting 8 lifetimes in one draft, surges to the peak of the profound, 1 realm breath below golden immortal, in a mind still legally registered to the lower world. The Scarlet King watches my aura settle and files his formal complaint with the cosmos. Again, he says, "Master, do you understand that when the old master comprehended in his day, whole ages celebrated a single insight? You come back from tea with new physics." Then, muttering into his gourd, Ling, reporting in as required, "The cheater is still cheating." Siqing's estate thought, whom I really should visit more, sends one drowsy pulse of approval through the inheritance link, and I send back the household motto we've settled into. Old ancestor, don't look me up. No news means we're both winning. One genuine worry does surface from that last settlement, and I note it in the private ledger where I keep such things. That universe is real. Its clock runs whether I'm logged in or not, and somewhere down its timeline, a green copper tripod is going to attach itself to a stubborn kid named Chin, and that kid, historically, does not stop. Red Dust Immortal, eventually, the far peak of that cosmos. My salvage claims over there, the palace, the vaults, the doorbells, are only safe while I'm the strongest thing with a deed. If the local protagonist outgrows my parking arrangements before I get back, unacceptable. A man's savings should not be at the mercy of someone else's character development. So I do the irresponsible thing and log straight back in. New red simulation, same universe, next era down the line. And the entry conditions make me laugh out loud in my courtyard, because the era I'm born into is the mess I made. My previous self proved the Ling twice and died off stage between eras, and a being like that doesn't just stop. His passing dispersed as a standing suppression over the whole star sea, a pressure the locals have spent 200,000 years failing to cultivate through. 200 millennia, and not one soul has proven the Ling since, and the histories call it the age the heavens closed, and it's my fault. I have, in the most literal cosmological sense, shot my own next life in the foot. The new life makes do. Born under my own ceiling, I found a home for the era's orphaned terrors, the place later maps will mark as the desolate ancient forbidden land and surround with warnings, and I set about the absurd task of outclimbing myself. It takes 701 years. Proving the Ling through my own suppression is like arm wrestling a statue of my father. The pressure knows me, anticipates me, is me, and the tribulation that comes with it reaches into the world's memory and fields imprints of my own past selves as the final gauntlet. I fight the martial madman's ghost. I fight the emperor of the gauntlets. I fight the venerable who returned. Every version of me that universe remembers, stacked into one weather system of judgment. Beating yourself is the strangest workout there is, and also, I file this thought away with a slow smile, because it will matter. The whole spectacle proves something structural. The tribulation builds its army from recorded fate, from imprints, from memory the world keeps. And memory, friends, is a medium. Media can be edited. There is room for manipulation in that machine, and I am exactly the wrong person to have noticed it. Ling proven, third time in one universe, the suppression lifts, mine replacing mine, and the heavens crack open for everyone. Within a generation, the star sea has living emperors again, plural, arguing at banquets, and the histories flip from the age the heavens closed to an era of glory with no idea both were the same tenant renovating. The era of glory comes with a rat in the granary, though, and I've suspected this rat across 3 lifetimes. Emperor Xuan, the self-styled heavenly emperor of the old records, the one figure of that cosmos whose story never adds up, always adjacent to the great disasters, never under them. This run, I'm strong enough to go find out why. I seed tracking marks, space-time intent woven into blessings, onto the 3 young emperors of the age during a banquet where I'm the honored elder. Sure enough, within a century, all 3 die in tragedies, beautiful tragedies, sourced, witnessed, mourned tragedies, faked tragedies. My marks are still ticking, all 3, from inside one mountain. I pay the mountain a visit. Emperor Xuan's lair is a masterpiece of stolen ages, and there he is, the eternal survivor, farming captured emperors like orchards, drinking eras through other people's Tao. Zhe recognizes what walks in. To his credit, the man's exit strategy has had 200,000 years of rehearsal. He detonates his own legendary cauldron of becoming immortal as a bomb, detonates his own body behind it as a second bomb, and rides the double blast out as a single fleeing primordial spirit, abandoning everything, treasury, hoard, harvest, to buy one soul's head start. It's the most expensive escape in that universe's history, and the fact that he correctly judged it necessary is the only compliment I'll ever pay him. Z also, in his panic, abandons the thing he'd never have sold, the 9th secret. The character All, Kai, the capstone of that cosmos's 9 forbidden arts. I lift it from his smoking vault and stand very still while it settles in beside its 8 siblings. All 9 secrets. The complete set. No one in that universe's whole history has held them together. They were scattered on purpose, because together they aren't 9 techniques. They're one sentence the world isn't supposed to be able to say. The 2 traitor emperors I find still alive in Xuan's orchard, colleagues who sold their own era to him for a squeeze of borrowed time, I don't send to any wheel. My captive phoenix has a nirvana coming, and nirvanas need fuel, and I've reached the stage of moral bookkeeping where feeding traitors to a rehabilitating bird counts as recycling. The primal emperor, the era's best of the 3, the one whose fake death was nearly real, I rebuild personally, his cracked soul recast with the Kirin line's Holy Spirit technique until it sets stone hard, and I fold him a protective talisman as a parting gift. The talisman proves to be the era's best investment. Within a decade, it has flagged and caught 2 more of Xuan's leftovers, a pair of perfection-stage saint spirits, twins, sent to reclaim the orchard. They live in the talisman now. It's roomier than it looks, and frankly, so is my conscience. 2 personal errands round out the era. In a tomb city I know intimately because I attended its funeral in a previous life, I find my old friend the fat Taoist mid-slumber between reincarnations, fifth life pending. Tian Yu's sleeping face is exactly the face of a man dreaming about other people's burial goods. When my presence trips his thief sense and one eye creaks open, he takes in my aura, correctly concludes that a being from his previous life's drinking stories cannot possibly be standing in his crypt, decides I'm a guilt hallucination, mumbles an apology to someone named neither of us, and goes back to sleep. I leave a boot print on his face, gently, as a receipt. His fifth life, the records will eventually show, is a grim, magnificent thing called Emperor Ling, and the boot print, I like to think, builds character all the way down. And in 4 scattered graves across the Star Sea lie 4 bodies I have personally worn, the discarded corpses of my previous simulated lives, each one a supreme relic by that world's standards, each one legally mine by the strongest property right there is. I died in them. I gather all 4, fire up the Bronze Palace's forge with the Mother Chen half I saved, and melt my own mortality into the starlit gauntlets, layer upon layer, self upon self. The gauntlets come off the anvil 1 recognized rank short of an immortal king weapon, armed with 4 deaths worth of me. And in the same forging trance, the 9 secrets braid themselves into their sentence at last, the 9 heavens' immortal light, a radiance with all 9 characters speaking at once, which I will not describe further because some techniques you save for an audience that deserves them. The last stretch of that era belongs to a monkey. The fighting Saint Emperor, that universe's storm of a war ape, all fur and fury and a heart like a struck bell, climbs to his proving, and I watch him do something almost nobody manages. He proves the Ling twice over, body and battle spirit both, a double crown. We spar for 9 days for the pure joy of it, and afterward trade like friends, his 9 revolutions heavenly art, the body-forging summit of his line, against arts from my furnace he has no other way to meet. When we part, I hold his shoulder and give him the only advice I've ever given a monkey. Little monkey, keep climbing. Come back and find me when you've made battle immortal. Then I open the way for him to the strange world, the fog realm bridge between that cosmos and the immortal domain above it, and watch the best fighter I've ever met walk up and out of his own story. Not everyone gets the same door. The great Saint Guangji, a wandering calamity the era nicknamed the god of misfortune because ruin follows him like gulls follow a ship, earns himself a ceiling instead, packed away under array locks for a future era to deal with, ideally one where I'm not the landlord. And 2 juniors I've quietly tutored for centuries, a brother and sister, him all hexagrams and river maps, her all clay and mending, take formal vows as my named disciples before they too walk the strange world road. Their names are Fuxi and Nuwa, and if those names mean to you what they mean to me, then you understand the vertigo I've stopped fighting. The simulations aren't downstream of the legends are downstream of the simulations. I'm not visiting stories, I'm apparently writing the reference material. The era closes the way eras do around me, at my hand, on my schedule, with the furniture rearranged and the next age's heroes already seated. The primordial chapter of that universe ends, and the history books will file it under many names, and every one of those names will be a man who is still, quietly, in the building. Because this lifetime isn't done, not even close. The ages that follow in that lifetime turn me into something I never planned to be, the keeper of other people's stories. Take the demon emperor Tang Xiaofeng, a sovereign of the monster ranks with a heartbreak where his legend should be. The woman he loves is dissolving, her existence unraveling on a slow fuse no art of that era can pinch out. Ziz spent 10,000 years burning kingdoms for a cure. I have one. The strange world's threshold can hold her, stabilize her past the dissolution, and I open that door for her myself. What I tell him, as she crosses, is that the door demands you enter by your own strength. No passengers, no exceptions. This is a lie. I could throw him through it like luggage. But a man with his beloved waiting on the far side of a climb will become something. A man carried through would just arrive. So he takes the post I offer, protector of Kunlun, my mountain's standing guardian, and turns his 10,000-year burn into fuel, and his gratitude comes with tuition. The true dragon treasure art of his line, handed over like a family heirloom to the liar who saved his heart. Somewhere in the same era, I net a flower of harmony for the garden, because the garden has opinions now, and I've stopped fighting them. Take Ling Du, who becomes my favorite bad influence. A machine god, an actual deity of that cosmos whose divinity runs on constructs, colossal warframes, the mechs of my previous life's cartoons rendered in immortal gold. I take one look at his workshop, and a soldier from Dragon Country, dead these many eras, sits up inside me and says, with the reverence of every boy who ever drew robots in a school notebook, "Mechs are cool." I spend the next 1,000 years incognito in his order, building and piloting under a name nobody will ever connect to me. A millennium of giant robots, logged officially as Advanced Array Studies. The Scarlet King knows. The Scarlet King has been paid for his silence in tea. Take the harvest I've waited 3 lifetimes for. The transformation pool finally buds, and the chaos lotus, the flower of the primal waters, the treasure that seeds cosmologies, comes up exactly 1 era after I learned to be patient. I don't refine it into a pill or a realm. I root it onto the scarlet gauntlets, living flower on dead lifetime metal, and the gauntlets stop being a weapon with history and start being a weapon with a future. Take Kshitigarbha, that world's builder of the faith path, the Western Radiance himself, whom I meet not as an enemy, but as a fellow specialist comparing infrastructures. His power runs on belief, oceans of it, harvested from worship. Mine, by that point, embarrassingly, also does. Eras of temples have accreted around my legends without permission, the riddle monks, the fist orders, the parking cult. I'll get to the parking cult. And when the 2 of us tally followers over tea, the accounting is not close. The number 1 object of faith in that entire universe is a man who never once asked for a prayer and mostly wanted soup. Kshitigarbha finds this genuinely, theologically hilarious. And then there's the quietest deposit of the era. 3 coffins pass through that world's deep story, the layered coffin vessels that ferry the greatest mysteries. And I do the thing no sane being does. I climb inside the second one and pull the lid shut. 60,000 years of meditation inside the sealed world it carries, the little universe of a nameless, dead emperor's making. A pocket of samsara where I run my 8th life thread and finally push my mental energy across the last great border. Golden Immortal. The mind itself, immortal ranked, dreaming inside a coffin, inside a legend, inside my own simulation. I wake, climb out, dust off the lid, and thank the vessel out loud, because you should always thank a library. The lineage grows around me like rings on a tree. Long Wushuang proves his ling under the 9 nether banner and takes a post in my line. The 4 great corpse mysteries of that world's earth, the buried sleepers under the old holy mountains, wake one by one across the ages, and every one of them, on waking, walks up my mountain. The old librarian Zhuangzi, the quiet prince Maitreya, the herb-tasting farmer Changjie, the war banner Xingtian. Names that were myths in my first life, sitting at my table arguing about tea temperature. Tianyou hits his 6th life and steals one of my fence posts on the way past, for luck, he says. I let him. The fence post is a tracking array. We both know. It's friendship. And on a green mountainside called Tai, in a spring I've circled on the calendar for half an era, a boy is born, named Jiang Yu. I'm there decades later, at the mountain's foot, running the least dignified operation of my existence, a parking attendant's booth. The famous class reunion comes up the mountain, the one that history records as the beginning of everything, the bronze tripod, the crossing, and I, in a gray uniform with a sign, charge the students for parking. Jiang Yu, future emperor of heaven, hero of the age to come, argues about the rate, loses the argument, and hands over his wallet. I keep it. It's in my trophy case between an emperor's crown and the phoenix's shed feather, labeled, "Parking, paid in full." His Mercedes, and this is the part I want carved somewhere permanent, his actual Mercedes I have maintained, in perfect condition, in a climate-sealed array, for the rest of that universe's history. Every era, an incarnation of mine dusts it. There is a monastic order that believes the car is a relic. They're not wrong. The joke is the visible part. The invisible part is that before the boy ever climbs that mountain, his whole family, parents, cousins, the neighbors he loves, down to the cats and the dog, especially the dog, has been quietly relocated to safety on my Kunlun, outside the meat grinder his story is scheduled to become. Zil spend eras fighting his way up to protect people I've already protected. That's not undermining his story. That's what a senior does. You hold the floor so the next one can learn to climb without the fall being fatal. The Black Emperor, the big dog, who in the deep histories wears shorts and swears like a dock worker, becomes my Kunlun's most catastrophic houseguest and the single best conversation in the universe. A word on the Black Emperor as a houseguest, because my Kunlun was a place of dignity before him. Ze arrives with the Qin family relocation, immediately identifies himself as their security consultant, and bills me. Ze teaches the ginseng orchard's guardian cranes to gamble and wins their feathers. Ze refers to my Chaos Lotus disciple as the Flower Kid, and to me, the Terror of Eras, exclusively as landlord. Z is the only being in existence who has attempted to pawn an item from inside the Bronze Immortal Palace, an act that should be impossible and which he accomplished out of pure disrespect. And late at night, when he thinks nobody's watching, he sleeps across the threshold of the Qin building's courtyard, facing outward the way he has for every family he's ever chosen. And if you bring it up in the morning, he'll deny it and bill you for slander. Best worst dog in any cosmos. The shorts remain unexplained. One rescue in that era outweighs the rest, and I don't joke about it. The woman history calls the ruthless empress, the white-robed sovereign who walked her road alone so long that alone became her legend, had a little brother at the beginning. The histories say he died in the blood rites of the Feathered Dynasty, and his death is the hinge her whole cold eternity swings on. I was there before the histories were. The sacrifice the dynasty performed was performed on an illusion I built, bloodlight and screaming, and a body that was never a body, while the boy himself came away under my arm, asleep, to grow up safe and slow in a guarded fold of Kunlun. I never told her. Couldn't. Her road to power was already braided around the grief, and pulling that thread mid-era might have unraveled the Empress with it. What I gave them instead, for 1,000,000 years, was one window. From a certain terrace across folded space, the grown brother could watch his sister's distant light. Z's not her lost boy reborn or replaced, no wheel, no trick, the same flower, just kept alive in different soil. Similar flowers, he said once, looking at her star and at his own hands. And he stood at that window, every era, in tears that never once turned bitter. I also, and this stays between us, parked the Bronze Immortal Palace where her road would trip over it. She needed a fortress no one else could open. I had a spare. The finale of that universe arrives the way its prophecies always muttered it would. The immortal road opens, the once per cosmos crossing, and nearly every supreme who hoards eras of life for exactly this moment dies in the crossing's meat grinder dark. 5 survive to the final gate. And at the final gate stands its keeper, the Golden Crow Emperor, ancient toll-taker, who looks down at the battered 5 and asks the question he has asked every crossing since time set. Mutt, are you worthy of ascension? The 5 worthies answer together, beat the sunbird toll-taker down in the last brawl of the old order, and dissolve into the light beyond. It's the best ending that road ever produced, and I watched it from the rail, like a man watching his students graduate. Because by then, they mostly were. Zhang Yu, who fought up through every era exactly as magnificently stubborn as the books promised, took vows on my mountain along the way, my 4th personal disciple. Wallet never returned. Ze marries Mu Qingwan with the whole cosmos in attendance. Their daughter Jiang Ling calls me Grand Teacher and is the only being permitted to touch the Mercedes. As Emperor of Heaven, he rebuilds the heavenly court over the bones of the age, and does it well. Kong Ming, the other great stubbornness of that world, and my 3rd disciple, Ruolan, who began existence as the Chaos Lotus on my gauntlets, and grew herself a life, an empress name, and opinions. Both push through the strange world to the rank that Cosmos calls Red Dust Immortal, the summit. And the ruthless empress, at the very end of her long, cold road, merges with her waiting Tao fruit, the child self she'd seeded eras ago, the one the deep books call Xiao Xiao, and rises, Red Dust Immortal, whole in a way she never let the histories see, which leaves one debt. At the strange world portal, on her crossing day, I finally pay it. I bring the brother. 1,000,000 years. 1,000,000 years since the blood right illusion, since the window terrace, since similar flowers. She stops at the threshold like she's been struck. Zay's grown. He's old. He's alive. He has her eyes. Neither of them speaks for the length of an era. Then the ruthless empress, the woman whose legend is that she felt nothing for 1,000 centuries, crosses the space between them at a walk, touches her brother's face, and cries. I stand off to the side and study the architecture. The portal's very interesting. Load-bearing arches. Yes, the whole lineage crosses into the immortal domain together. Disciples, guardians, dogs, empresses, the entire improbable family my longest lifetime accreted, and the road up from there, the domain above domains, wants a 7-colored simulation to follow. I check the price. The price checks me back. Not this era. The system records the world, saved, locked, mine to re-enter when the wallet recovers, and rings at long last the closing bell. I open my eyes in my courtyard, and I sit there for a while, doing absolutely nothing, which for me is a monument. Whole eras of subjective life, banked in an afternoon. The tea has not finished cooling. The Scarlet King looks at my face and, for once in his existence, doesn't announce anything. The settlement takes 3 days to finish landing, and when it lands everywhere at once. My mental energy, carrying home the coffin decades and the golden immortal thread of the 8th life, crosses the same border in the real, golden immortal, early peak of it, to be precise, in a body still filed under the lower world census. 3 days. The Scarlet King watches the ambient pressure of my thoughts change grade, retreats into his gourd, and delivers, in the tone of a clerk resigning mid-shift, his formal report to the universe. Ling, reporting in, as is my sworn duty. The cheater has cheated again. I no longer believe in fair progression. I no longer believe in progression. I will be in my gourd. His Tao heart, he informs me later, has been shattered and reassembled so many times he's begun numbering the additions. The body keeps pace out of professional pride. The profound heaven saint body seals its 10th layer, the last layer its creator ever wrote, and the great sun scripture closes its 9th ring. For the first time since the leaky hut, there is no next chapter waiting in either manual. I've finished the books. From here, the flesh writes itself. I stretch the new completeness with field trips, quiet slips through the cracks between neighboring lesser worlds, the small satellite realms around ours, walking other skies for an afternoon the way a landlord walks a property line. Then I give 400 years to the most important refinement of my existence. Fu Shi's essence blood, the Eastern Emperor's own, goes into the 9-9 gourd with me beside it, and era slow, drop by drop, the true spirit, mysterious heaven transformation writes the imperial original into my true spirit library. What emerges at the end of those 4 centuries stands in my inner sky and spreads wings that are dawn, the golden crow true body. Not a fire sparrow's imitation, the solar sovereign shape itself. And it comes with its bloodline's 3 innate legacies pre-written into the feathers. The rainbow transformation, the escape art with no equal in any world I've run, the moment of departure rendered as a streak of sky-colored light that apology letters can't catch. Body as the great sun, my frame as a literal star, output measured in dawns. And flame dominator, sovereignty over fire as a category, other people's flames included. The only line of the inheritance that stays dark is the deepest one. True solar fire cultivation needs a true sun. And our lower world's sun, I confirm with new eyes and old suspicion, is a projection. A lamp, not a star. One more amenity the world above has been hoarding. I mark the milestone the traditional way. I open the status panel and let the system roast me. Age, 1821. Cultivation, Mahayana. Mind, golden immortal. True bodies, a war ape, a cosmos fish, and the sun. Talent slots, 8, all lit. Evaluation, verbatim because I've earned it. Host defeats golden immortals in his spare time and continues to loiter in the lower world like a retiree haunting his old office. Be a human being. Ascend. Soon, machine. 2 items first. Item 1 takes 50 years and is, technically, homework assigned by an extinct emperor. The arrow, Yusha's world-rank killing thought, still snarling in its cell in my inner sky, I finally take down off the shelf and assimilate. 50 years of unbraiding the deadliest idea ever aimed at me, thread by thread, learning how a thought is sharpened until it outranks matter. When the last strand settles, I don't have an arrow anymore. I have the archery. Item 2 is the plan those 50 years crystallize. My mind sits at Golden Immortal, and my fist carries 9 intents, 9 separate summits, each one a lifetime's treasure to anyone else. The next border above Golden Immortal Mind is a thing the oldest texts barely gesture at. The world realm. Mind as a world force, thought with geography. And I've noticed something no manual says, because no one before me ever had the parts. My intents want to merge. The 9 have been leaning toward each other for centuries, like a solar system asking for its sun. The fist path leading the mind path, space-time, world, great sun, reincarnation, all 9 braided into a single mind force with the mass of a cosmos. That's the theory. Testing it needs somewhere with higher physics than home. Conveniently, I own a locked door to exactly such a place, and the next tier of my menu has been glowing at me for a decade. The true immortal realm. The world my long-ago simulated self ascended into, saved and locked since the Mayfly days. Pink tier entry, my most expensive ticket yet. I pour in the points, and the door opens on the world above worlds. The true immortal realm makes every world I've run feel like a courtyard. Skies stacked on skies, immortal dynasties older than my home cosmos, currents of law you can lean on like railings. The entry settlement alone pays out a new red talent, World's Favor, the final form of my luck line, upgrading Fortunate to structurally beloved. Worlds themselves tilt toward me now, karma pooling around my feet like water finding low ground. I should have read that description more carefully. Low ground is where things drain to, remember this. My simulated self does the tour first. 790 years of immaculate immortal career, and I want the absurdity of this on the record, culminating in the throne itself. 9th Lord of the Heavenly Court. It turns out the Heavenly Emperor position in that realm rotates, a chairmanship, and my year comes up. And so for one gorgeous stretch of eternity, the office of Heavenly Emperor is held by a tourist. I use the seat the way I use everything, as library access. Every body-refining technique in the realm's registries flows through the myriad Ling furnace, and out comes my own synthesis, the myriad Tao's body-forging art, a flesh cannon to match my fist cannon. And along the way, I pick up a 10th intent out of sheer administrative convenience, the 5 elements fist intent, comprehended the direct way, by politely suppressing the realm's 5 elemental Ling ancestors in their own halls until their laws agreed to sit still and be studied. 10 intents. The solar system is 1 planet over quota, and the sun at its center is coming. Then I notice what's wrong with Paradise. It's the career records. The realm's histories brim with Ling ancestors, the local summit rank, and the histories have a shape. Every cycle, a generation of ancestors rises, flourishes, and then, per the orthodox method, undertakes the great severing, cutting the 3 corpses, the famous protocol of shedding desire, emotion, and self to touch transcendence. And every cycle, the generation that severs, plateaus, fades, recycles. For millions of years, the same beautiful staircase, and nobody at the top of it. Because the staircase is a conveyor. The severed desires don't dissolve, they drain somewhere. The whole method is a harvesting protocol, and once I see it, I can feel the harvester. The world will of the true immortal realm, sentient, ancient, patient, wearing the sky itself, farming its own greatest cultivators like orchard rows. Severing the 3 corpses is the trap. Transcendence-flavored bait on a hook the size of a cosmology, and every era swallows it whole. A sane being closes the simulation and files a report. But I'm standing in a farm the size of a heaven. My mind is 1 merge away from the world realm, and the farmer, the will, is made of exactly the substance my next breakthrough needs to digest. And there's a personal note too, older than strategy. I've been the strongest thing in every room since I was 16. The will is the first opponent in my entire existence that outweighs me by definition. You don't get many of those. You certainly don't waste one. So, the heist of heists. I switch my cultivation on paper to the immortal ancient method, the alternative road, out of fashion for eras, because the orthodox road reports to the will, and my talent, the one that escaped, keeps my defection out of every ledger the sky reads. And then I prepare for 10 million years. I say that the way other people say, all winter. Under identities the will can't collate, I seed the realm with temples, shrines of the 7 emotions and the ordinary desires, gathering exactly the substance the severing protocol ships to the will, stockpiling it instead, distilling eras of want and joy and grief into one impossibly concentrated reserve. I visit the resting places and retirement seats of the harvested, 2,000 plus current and former Ling ancestors, and leave a seal in each, dormant, patient, keyed to one future signal. I lace the realm's foundations with isolation formations, the heavenly array master's full catalog, disguised as infrastructure, folk custom, and in one region, popular landscaping. 10 million years of laying charges inside a god's own body while the god watches its fields and suspects nothing, because the one farmhand it can't see is the one rewiring the barn. The Scarlet King, during the planning phase, asks the reasonable question, "And if it goes wrong, master?" I give him the honest math. Right now I'm a bicycle. Digesting a world will makes me a motorcycle. If I lose, I die in simulation, which means I wake up at the tea table, annoyed. The upside is a new class of existence. The downside is a refund. Old friend, they don't print odds like that anywhere, in any heaven. The day comes. I trip the harvest protocol on purpose, present myself through world's favor as the ripest fruit any cycle has ever grown. A 2,000 rank karma jackpot begging to be severed and drained. And the will reaches down through the orthodox channel to collect me, and the channel is mined. The war that follows is the largest private transaction in that realm's history, and the realm sleeps through it. The will, realizing mid-reach that the fruit is armed, stops being subtle. It ignites its core assets. 3,000 pillars of law, each pillar a standing wave of world law with the output of a peak Fuxi golden immortal, the treasury of a heaven burning itself for one kill. 3,000 of them. I fight the opening exchanges honestly to learn the weather, then dishonestly, which is where I live. I let it land something that looks catastrophic, sell the injury with eras of stagecraft skill, and its remaining pillars converge to finish the job, into the prepared ground. The signal goes out. 2,000 plus seals, planted across 10 million years in the bodies and seats of every harvested ancestor, fire at once, and the pillars' law supply gutters as their source lines cut. My isolation formations close like a fist around the realm's meridians. 99% of the will's inflow severed in one heartbeat by landscaping. And then, the bottle. 10 million years of temple-distilled desire and emotion. Every flavor of want the severing protocol ever confiscated from its victims, poured over a being that has spent its whole existence eating those things pre-processed, in dilution, never raw. The will of the true immortal realm takes the full dose at once, and gets, there is no more precise term, blind drunk. A heaven, staggering. Laws, slurring. And into that stagger I send my quietest weapon, the Jianmu. The ladder tree, the axis of my inner world, roots extending out of my sky and into the reeling will. The tree whose entire mythological job is connecting above to below, drinking from the biggest above it has ever been offered. For the finish, I use her technique. The ruthless empress's art, learned across a lifetime of standing near her legend, the grand Ling treasure bottle, the sovereign container, the self as vessel for whatever presumes to be bigger than the self. I become the bottle, and I swallow the sky's soul. Digestion takes tens of millions of years, and the realm, fascinatingly, barely notices its farmer is gone. The fields just stop being harvested, which the fields experience as a golden age. The will fights the whole way down, of course. Its best trick is spawning rumors become flesh, protagonist-shaped karma constructs, chosen heroes with destiny cranked to maximum, generated era after era to rally the realm and slay the usurper. They're well made. Some have talking swords. Against a bottle that contains their own narrative supply line, they arrive pre-read, and not one of them reaches my table. Somewhere in the middle stretch, my seated alternative, the immortal ancient Ling Sect, staffed by preachers I gently reprogrammed with a rewritten fairy scripture, completes its long mission. The severing protocol goes extinct as a fashion, replaced realm-wide by methods that don't ship your soul to a landlord. I harvested the harvester and then unionized the farm. And near the end, the dregs of the will, reduced to a whimper in the bottle's dark, offers its final bargain. Release into reincarnation, rebirth as something small and harmless, mercy between colleagues. I consider it for exactly as long as it deserves. This is the being that ate every transcendence its world ever grew, for millions of years, on purpose, via a staircase it labeled hope. Am I an idiot? I press down, the whimper ends, and in the pressing, in the precise, final, unsentimental act of ending something that had been a heaven, my fist learns its missing letter. The destruction fist intent. not rage. Conclusion. The 11th intent arrives quiet as a closed ledger, and with the will's origin fully rendered down, the raw world stuff of a digested sky metabolized into my mind's foundations, the merge I came for finally goes critical. 9 intents, 10, 11, all of them, folding into their sun. One intent. The world fist intent, reborn at a scale its old self couldn't dream. No longer one summit among summits, but the range entire, every fist I have ever learned or invented speaking as a single world-weight voice. My mind braided through it right at the world realm's threshold, one breath from the border, one clean breath. Which is exactly when something outside the universe clears its throat. I feel it as a pressure on the walls of everything, an attention, vast past cosmology, arriving from the raw chaos between worlds. The creator, the being that made the true immortal realm's will in the first place, some chaos-walking existence for whom our whole realm is a terrarium, has noticed its pet is missing, and its regard sweeps the realm like a hand feeling a pocket. I catch its mood at the edge of sense, and its mood is the worst possible news, not grief, mild interest. I enlightened that will by accident anyway, the attention muses across the void. Died, did it? Something in here ate it, though. Let's deduce what. Deduction from a chaos-traversing existence aimed at the realm containing me. My talent hides me from any reading, but I'm holding a stolen sky in my belly inside its terrarium, and a search like that doesn't need to read me. It just needs to find the one thing in the tank that doesn't add up. So I do the math I'd already done 10 million years earlier, the bicycle math, and I take the exit that no power in any cosmos can chase. I burn my simulated soul to ash on the spot, by my own hand, mid-breath, 1 instant before the sweep lands. Died free, uncaught, undeduced. The terrarium keeps its mystery. The Chaos Walker finds a realm with no farmer, no thief, and no thread to pull. And I wake at my tea table with the bell still ringing, holding everything. The settlement is beyond anything the system has ever printed. 50+ million years of subjective existence, banked. World's favor sealed into its slot. The complete world fist intent, mine in the real. A digested sky's worth of origin, composted into the roots of my mind. The Chaos Walker keeps the terrarium and the question. I keep the enlightenment. And a very, very healthy new respect for what else might be strolling around out there, in the dark, between worlds. The breakthrough itself takes 800 years of real-world evolution, and it's less a breakthrough than a coronation the paperwork finally catches up to. My mind power, fed on a digested sky and crowned with the unified intent, crosses the border no mind of my home cosmos has ever crossed, the world realm. Thought with geography, will with weather. When it settles, my inner sky and my outer mind stop being metaphors for each other and just agree. The Scarlet King's reaction deserves its own stone tablet. Early in those 800 years, he'd taken to calling me little progenitor as a joke, his way of coping, mocking the trajectory. Z drifts out of his gourd on the morning the world realm settles, tastes the air, goes very still, and says, "Little progenitor, I was joking. It was humor. You were supposed to hear the diminutive and feel small." And then, hollowly, into the middle distance, "Ling, it's me again. You already know what I'm going to say." Even the world itself stops pretending not to notice. The Xuanhuang continent, the whole lower world, the ground I've walked since the leaky hut, sends a blessing. An actual, formal, world will blessing. The kind of luminous favor that settles on destined protagonists in storybooks, drifting down onto my shoulders like the world tipping its hat to a progenitor-grade existence living quietly in its attic. My homeworld just gave me a protagonist's halo out of what I can only assume is civic pride. I thank it politely. We have a good landlord-tenant relationship, the continent and I, better than some worlds I could name and digest. And then the system does the thing I will spend the rest of my existence thinking about. Unprompted, unexplained, unitemized on any settlement screen, a column of golden light rises out of the system's depths, out of whatever the system actually is, behind its shopfront of menus and snark, and pours into my heart force world. Into the roots of the Jianmu, into the world stuff of a digested sky, into everything I am. And somewhere in that pouring, something is born. I feel it the way you feel a word on the tip of your tongue, enormous and unreachable. The beings who feel it properly are above my sky. That golden birth rings across the Honghuang, the great primordial overworld, the true cosmos our continent hangs off like a charm on a bracelet. And in 6 holy lands and 1 place beyond places, the mightiest existences of all creation look up at once. The 6 saints. And above them, the Ling ancestor himself, first under heaven, teacher in the purple cloud palace. The judgment they pass between themselves, and I get the gist across the link my inheritance keeps cracked open, is short and unprecedented. A world seed has been born. A seed with the potential for transcendence. Its bearer, connected to the one that escaped. It cannot be divined, cannot be located, cannot be read. Directive from the top to every mighty being under the sky. Do not interfere. Keep it secret. Watch. Every divination in creation goes looking for me that season. Every one of them comes back with fog. And my talent, the one that escaped, doing its job under the heaviest load of its existence, keeps pinging its little warnings into the corner of my vision with every failed scry. Attention, divination attempt deflected. Attention, divination attempt deflected. Attention, karmic trace scattered. Hundreds a day at the peak, like advertising texts from a very anxious service provider. I eventually ask it to summarize daily. The daily summary is a number with commas in it. Here's my favorite part, though. I can't find the seed either. I turn my own heart force world inside out. I own the place. I am the place. And there's nothing. No new mountain, no golden egg, no humming pearl. Whatever the system planted, it planted it somewhere even the landlord can't inspect. On a timeline it declines to discuss. For purposes it files under the same category as everything else about itself. None of my business yet. My own cheat has secrets from me. I'd be offended if I weren't so professionally impressed. So I do what you do when the biggest question has no handle. I eat the second ginseng fruit, let another layer of foundation silt in, and take inventory for the exam I can actually study for. Fushi's final trial is still waiting in the chaos bell. My status going in. Mind power at world realm. My inner cosmos rated at the peak of the minor 1,000 worlds class and braided through the world fist intent. 9 full Ling powers riding a single mind, a configuration the Scarlet King, who has read every record his estate ever kept, flatly calls unmatched in history. In practical terms, anything under a Fushi Golden Immortal, the senior grade of the higher heavens, I now sweep. Not fight, sweep. The bell takes me at my word. Fushi's 3rd trial opens not as a task, but as a war. The war. The bell's memory of the witch demon cataclysm again, but no longer the sampler platter of Trial 2, the full archive. The primordial world's true ending, replayed around me at original scale, with my objective printed in modest gold. 10,000 war points to pass. Remember that number. 10,000. It's about to become the funniest number in the primordial age. But first, the bell makes me watch the overture, and I stop breathing for the length of it. The war's opening is beyond combat, its cosmology arguing with itself. I watch the witch clans link their 12 bloodlines and stand up together as Chaos's true body, the world-carving giant himself, reconstituted out of his heirs, reaching back through time for his own weapon, with a roar that is also a claim of inheritance. Axe. To me. And against that resurrection, the demon court answers with mathematics, the Jotian star formation, every star in the sky conscripted into one engine, interlocked with the Hunyuan helo array, the sun and moon as gears. Titan versus star map, the recreated creator versus the weaponized firmament. Their collision doesn't destroy each other so much as mutually annihilate both trump cards, the 2 greatest formations of all time burning each other off the board and leaving the war to be finished the long way, by armies, by attrition, by everything I'm standing in. The bell's voice, Fushi's voice, arrives dry as dust over the battlefield. This is where I died, more or less. Let's see what you do with it. 10,000 points, little variable. Begin. I begin by lowering the sky. The Heart Force world comes down over the nearest battlefront the way night comes down on a candle. Beneath it, 200-some Witch Clan warriors of the Golden Immortal grade, mid-charge, the shock troops of the primordial age, beings whose individual names used to be provincial religions. Golden Immortals resist chi, resist law, resist blades, resist time. Minds they have never armored, because in their entire era, no mind was ever a weather system. My world settles over theirs, and 200 golden immortals simply end, not struck, not burned, just outweighed, the way deep water doesn't fight the things it closes over. The trial counter does something no trial counter should do. It stutters. Then it prints 600,000 points. One pass. The pass quota, the whole exam, was 10,000. Outside the memory, in whatever adjacent nowhere the examiner keeps his chair, I distinctly hear the residual will of Yuan Huang Fu Shi, sovereign of the primordial demon court, wielder of the chaos bell, a being who personally watched chaos's heirs stand up as chaos, rub his non-existent eyes, and say, with the full weight of imperial diction collapsing in real time, World Realm Mind Force. Brought World Realm Mind Force to my entrance exam. Is the Ling his father? I don't answer, officially. The counter keeps counting. The memory war, insulted, escalates to its honor guard. I'm pulled into a formal duel space, the war's champion circle, hallowed ground folded inside the skull shadow of Dijiang, the eyeless ancestral witch of space itself, and my opponent is the real thing. A top-grade Fushi warrior of the witch clans, mountain mass, wearing the heaven-earth transformation to stand horizon tall, unfolding 3 heads and 6 arms in mirror of my own favorite party trick. A being 1 grade shy of the war's generals, immune by nature to soul arts, immune by scale to sweeping. The first honest fistfight I've had in eras, and I spend it dancing. 10 days, the rainbow transformation at combat tempo, the escape art repurposed as footwork, a streak of prismatic light orbiting a roaring titan, never landing the finisher, always a feather width ahead of 6 fists the size of provinces. To the watching memory hosts, it looks like the upstart can't close. Layer by layer, 10 days of shed light feathers drifting down around the duel ground like confetti from a very slow parade. Confetti with coordinates. Every falling feather has been a brushstroke, and on the 10th day, the last one lands, and the great sun, sky-burning, soul-scattering array, drawn across the entire duel space in 10 days of dance steps, keyed to solar law, sized for exactly 1 titan, ignites with him standing on its axis. Here's the thing about the witch clans, the tactical footnote their whole glorious doomed era rests on. Their bodies laugh at force, and their souls laugh at magic, but formations, patient, prepared, geometric murder, formations they never learned to read. For a witch, comprehending an array is harder than proving the Ling by strength, so he stands in mind for the 80 years of accelerated trial time it takes to do the work, a fortress being patiently unargued by sunlight, and at the end the duel space holds 1 man, 1 cooling array, and a titan's worth of drifting ash. The circle releases me back to the front lines, where I stop being polite about scale. The heart-force sky comes down again and again, moving across the war like harvest weather. By the time the memory runs out of fronts to feed me, the counter reads past 40 million, against a pass line of 10,000, and upwards of 100,000 golden immortal witches have learned the new physics. Fushi's will has gone completely silent, which from him is a standing ovation. And then the trial stops grading me, because the war reaches the part no candidate interferes with. The ending. The bell makes me watch this too, and this time I wouldn't look away if it let me. The ancestral witches begin to fall, and falling, detonate, the 12 pillars of chaos's inheritance spending themselves like curses, each death a crater in the world's crust. Changxi, mother of suns, rises with the sun-moon wheel burning both faces. Emperor Hao Tian draws the witch-slaying sword and writes his clan's answer in it. Fu Shi, the demon court's Fu Shi, the elder brother, the mind of the age, dies in the crush, and across the battlefield his sister feels it, and I watch the single most frightening moment of the primordial era, Nua's fury. The gentle one, the mender. She takes the field with an embroidered ball, a soft, silly, bridal-looking treasure, and where it touches, 1 touch, champions of either side simply cease attending the war. The armies part around her grief like water around a hot iron. And through the smoke of all of it, I watch a shape I know intimately, the vast fish bird, the deep and height himself, Kunpeng, demon master, my inheritance's oldest debt, read the war's ending early, tuck the Hetu and Luoshu river diagrams under his wing like a clerk emptying the till, and desert. No last stand, no loyalty discount, just theft at escape velocity, the original sin my ancestor's murder was only a chapter of. I mark his heading the way the gauntlets once marked mine. Fly far, bookkeeper, the ledger's already open. The end of the end is geology. Jurong, last rage of the water witches, headbutts Mount Bujo, the sky pillar, the tent pole of the primordial world, and brings the ceiling down on everyone's era at once. The heavens tear, the world floods sideways. The war doesn't conclude so much as lose its venue. What follows, the bell shows me in coda. Nua, her fury banked into work, smelting 5-colored stone in a cauldron the size of a cosmology to patch the torn sky. The mending that makes her the age's one unanimous saint. The survivors dividing merit and blame in the ruins. And then 6 newly seated saints, the fresh management of the shattered world, discovering the war's greatest unclaimed asset humming in the wreckage. The chaos bell, masterless with Fushi's fall. 6 saints, 1 primordial treasure. The quarrel that follows is the least dignified sequence of the entire archive. Transcendent beings bickering over the estate like heirs at a will reading, until Jedi, the Western saint with the famous sticky fingers, resolves the deadlock his way. Palms the bell mid-argument and flicks it into the void to retrieve later, once the others stop watching. The others never stop watching. But something else was watching too. In the deep void, falling masterless through the dark between worlds, the bell is boarded by a stowaway with a prior claim. The residual will of its dead emperor, the last thought of Yuan Huang Fushi, who slips aboard his own treasure, takes the wheel, and steers the greatest artifact of creation quietly down and away, past every saint's accounting, into the one place no power of the Hong Huang would think to look. A backwater, an appendage world, a modest golden token in a modest sect treasury, waiting 10,000 years for a boy with a bleeding finger. The trial ends, the war memory folds up, and in the ringing dark inside the bell, I feel the old will replaying my file one more time. The trials, the counter, the array drawn in dance steps, the sky I keep in my head, and delivering its verdict to itself, half awe and half accusation, in the voice of someone updating a very old ranking. The one that escaped. Cultivating less than 3,000 years. The 3 pure ones themselves never tested like this. Then, louder, to me, with the ghost of an emperor's grin in it. Congratulations, variable. You're hired. Hired means recognized. The bell's ownership seal, the heaven-opening seal, the master key imprint that makes a primordial treasure yours rather than merely near you, takes 100 years to merge, and I spend them in the bell's heart, being formally introduced to the single oldest object I will ever touch. And the introduction comes with a gift no vault could hold. As the seal completes, the bell shares its first memory. Dreaming back to creation, the inheritance calls it. Not a recording, a dream the bell still has, and I dream it too. Chaos opens the world. I watch it from inside the bell that was there, the axe fall that separates something from nothing, clear rising, turbid sinking, the first architecture. I watch the 3,000 chaos demons, the pre-creation natives, the things that lived in the nothing and objected to the something, break against the newborn world's laws in the war before wars. And I watch the settlement after, the distribution of creation karma, the original endowment, the deeds of the cosmos handed out while the paint was wet, the Xuanhuang pagoda of heaven and earth settling toward the destiny that ends with Zhuangzi. Treasure after primordial treasure, finding its karmic line, the whole inheritance tree of every legend I've ever simulated, sketched at the root. And one line of the ledger that snags my attention like a nail, the Hongmeng endowment, the purple mist line, the deepest single item in creation's original portfolio. My ancestor Ziqing's lost claim among its echoes, marked in the dream as unresolved. Undistributed, or unborn, or waiting. The bell's dream doesn't say. It just leaves that page gently dog-eared, the way prophecies do when they intend to be sequels. And while I dream all this, something dreams along. At the edge of my inner sky, the system's golden screen glows, not with menus, not with snark, just quietly, attentively on, the way it was during the world seed pouring. Copying, I realize. The system is copying the bell's creation dream, every axefall and karmic line of it, into whatever archive lives behind its shopfront. It has never once done anything by accident. I file the observation in the drawer with the seed, the drawer labeled, "My cheat is somebody's plan, and someday I'm going to meet the planner." When I step out of the century of dreaming, my personal inventory has crossed a line no being under the saints can claim. One primordial treasure, seal-merged and answering to my pulse. Two innate spirit treasures, the manor and the gourd, riding escort. A boy who once traded rabbit furs for a mana pill now owns the bell that rang in creation, and the Scarlet King has stopped announcing me entirely on the grounds that, quote, there is no protocol for this. The old Will, freed of his long guardianship, handles his own retirement with imperial efficiency. Fushi's remnant relocates out of the bell and into the Crimson Cloud Manor, my manor, his choice, the two ancient neighbors' estates merging households through me, and the timing turns out to be divine comedy, because mere days after the move, the void over the old treasury folds open and in sweeps Jedi himself, 7 treasures tree in hand, having finally circled back for the bell he flicked away a whole primordial age ago. Za finds a dusty alcove, an empty token-shaped absence, and no bell, no will, no forwarding address, and the ripple of a Western saint's very composed frustration reaches me across half a world as the gentlest weather. Sage, with respect, finders keepers is your doctrine. I learned it from watching you. Before the household settles, Fushi's will sits me down for the formal passing of accounts, the 2 promises that come folded into everything he's given me. First, his little brother. The 10th Golden Crow, the one survivor of the Sun Purge that gutted their lineage, Zhou Xuan, alive somewhere in the Hong Huang under names and disguises, the last drop of the Imperial solar blood outside my own borrowed copy. Protect him. Second, and here the old Emperor's voice goes flat in a way that ends discussions, Kunpeng, the deserter, the thief of the river diagrams, the murderer of my own master Ziqing, which makes this the rare debt written in 2 families' books at once. Kill him. And the will, being who he is, immediately ruins the solemnity by talking margins. The bird has spent eras stacking treasures, techniques, and stolen karma, he notes, a walking warehouse with wings. Killing him isn't even vengeance at this point, little variable, it's arbitrage. I inherit the errands with the estate, meanwhile, inventories like a dragon's daydream. Inside the bell, 10 billion immortal spirit stones, the demon court's war chest, denominated in the currency my system drinks, plus the complete scripture archive of the primordial demon court, doctrines extinct everywhere else in creation. Plus 1 legendary weapon with a personality problem, the sun-shooting divine bow, the bow, Yusha's instrument, which takes 1 measure of its new owner and goes on strike, strings itself slack, refuses my draw, radiates the sulky conviction of a masterwork that has decided I am not its archer. I've assimilated the arrow, I tell it. We're practically colleagues. The bow declines to be drawn. Yusha managed it, it seems to sulk, and you are not him. Fine, sulk in the rack, masterpiece. I'm patient, and you're immortal. We'll see who gets bored first. And then, at the bottom of the hoard, the item that makes even my world realm mind sit down slowly. 365 star banners. The surviving standards of the Jotian star formation, the demon court's firmament engine, the array that fought Chaos's resurrection to mutual ruin. Not all of it, but the load-bearing core. Enough that with eras of work and a sky's worth of star essence, the formation could be restored. Fushi's will confirms it with the calm of a man discussing garden repairs. Rebuilt and fully manned, the Jotian array challenges a saint. Challenges a saint. I look at the banners for a long time. Then I put them away carefully, the way you put away the deed to a mountain you're not ready to climb, and I go home to say my goodbyes. Because that's the shape of things now, and everyone I love has felt it coming for years. The lower world is finished with me. Not in affection, in capacity. My cultivation stands suppressed at the ceiling of a world that stopped having ceilings for me centuries ago. My mind is a cosmos in a jar, and the Skygate is the only door I haven't opened. It's time. The goodbyes take a decade, and I do them properly. Kanglin, crocodile, coward, best bait in 2 realms, oldest employee, receives a retirement package of longevity pills sized for a small dynasty and, because he once wanted it so badly he screamed, a post. Steward of the Crimson Cloud Manor's outer waters, with a jade seal of office he will show to every fish he ever meets. My strays and students across the continent get their affairs quietly arranged. opportunities seeded in their paths, and for the oldest mortal friends, a gentler gift, a thread of reincarnation Tao tied into their lines, so that the wheel, when it eventually takes them, handles them kindly and keeps the receipts. Hong Hui Li, my master, Mahayana, still the biggest hands and best laugh on any mountain, refuses relocation without being asked, because we both know his road. The sect is his fist, and he'll ascend the honest way or not at all. And if I so much as hint at carrying him, they'll box my ears in front of the disciples. We drink one last jar on Tianchuan Peak, and he tells me the thing he's told me since I was 16. Eat more. The road has no inns. And then the hill above Qingyu town. The grave gets weeded the way it has every visit for 2,000 years. The town below has been a preserved village under my quiet wards for centuries. The hut with the leaky roof maintained as a historical structure by locals who have no idea why the weather there is always kind. I pour the good wine into the dirt. The stone has worn soft at the corners, and I've never once let an art of mine repair it, because some things should be allowed to age at the speed of love. Old man, I'm going up. Past the sky you used to point my bow at, and I'm telling you what I've never said over this stone in 2,000 years of visits, so listen once and hold me to it. I have learned the wheel that took you, learned its turns, its ledgers, its long patience. When I stand high enough, and I will stand high enough, I am coming back down that wheel to find the thread of you, and I am pulling you out. An immortal rank for the hunter who fed a strange, quiet baby on rabbit stew and bad jokes. A house with no leaks, time with no end to it, spent however you please. You raised a son who can do this, so wait for me one more stretch, the way you used to wait up when I hunted late. No jokes on the hill, same as always. Then I walk down through the village one last time, touch the door frame of the hut, and go to kick open the sky. Ascension, for normal people, is a tribulation. The sky gate cracks open a reluctant sliver, the candidate crawls through half-cooked by gate lightning, and the upper world logs one more immigrant. I have read the manuals. I have decided their guidelines. I rise off the continent with the bell's weight folded quiet in my chest, my talent wrapping the whole event in unreadable fog, and when the sky gate presents its reluctant sliver, I kick it. Oath doors. Open. What pours through is not gate lightning, it's welcome. 9 colored, auspicious clouds unfurl from horizon to horizon of 2 worlds at once, the lower sky and the upper sky shaking hands over my head, and then the part that stops every divination-capable being in the Hong Huang mid-breath. Purple chi surges from the east. 30,000 miles of it. The sign. The sign, the omen the old texts reserve for exactly one occasion, the emergence of a being with a saint's destiny. Sect records everywhere gain an entry with a lot of underlining. On his mountain, Han Shuling drops a chess piece. Across the clouds from him, his friend Fushi Genren, the true person of the Golden Light Cave, uncle master of a certain famous lotus boy, stands up so fast he knocks over the board. And somewhere over the western horizon, hurrying, comes the glow of Samantabhadra. Yes, that Samantabhadra, the palm from the void, who has apparently been waiting eras for my ascension as an interception window, and who arrives, thanks to a departure schedule that assumed I'd have a normal tribulation with a normal prelude, late. Entirely, uselessly, historically late. The bodhisattva of wisdom, outplanned by a man who simply did not queue. I'd apologize for the short notice, Great One, but you did try to palm my afternoon once. Consider us even on courtesy. The welcome has hosts. The Chan lineage, the orthodox immortal court of the Jade Purity line, claims my landing, and I let them, because their claim comes with the single most useful room in the upper world, the transformation pool, the sacred font where ascenders convert a lifetime of lower world cultivation into true immortal chi. The conversion is famously humbling. A Mahayana ancestor's entire mortal accumulation typically refines down to a modest immortal foundation, and the pool takes days. I'm in the pool for a month. The attendants stop taking notes partway through and just watch. My accumulation, the compounded mass of every treasure-fed layer, every eaten tribulation, a digested sky's worth of foundations, converts and keeps converting. 6 minor immortal realms in one continuous pour, my new immortal chi rising through ranks like floodwater through a stairwell. And then it stops, hard, clean, deliberate, at the half-step threshold of the profound immortal grade. Not because I ran dry, because the bell says so. The chaos bell, self-appointed guardian of my long game, leans on my cultivation from inside like a hand on a chess clock, high enough to be extraordinary, low enough to stay eligible for every young generation door in the upper world. The pool attendants, who have processed ascenders since before my continental had names, record the first case in the institution's history of a candidate whose cultivation declined to rise further on what appeared to be strategic grounds. In the purple cloud palace, beyond the sky of skies, the Ling ancestor himself, I feel it as the faintest pressure through the fog, like a lighthouse sweeping past a painted window, turns his attention toward the anomaly, frowns at an unreadable blur, and moves on. The talent holds. The oldest eye in creation slides off me, and the drawer in my mind labeled "Someday I Meet the Planner" gains one more entry. Someday, that eye and my fog are going to have a conversation. My formal reception is 3 elders of the Chan, Chi Jingzi, first among the 12 golden immortals of the line, all jade dignity, Fu Shi Junrun, still visibly recovering from the chessboard, and Han Chu Ling, my sect's founder, my ancestor's reincarnation, my senior brother twice over in ways he doesn't know, who takes one look at the ascender from his own little backwater sect and beams like a man whose garden gnome turned out to be solid gold. The 3 of them, being immortals of culture, had bets riding on my measurements. All 3 bet under. All 3 lose. The stakes, immortal fruits of 3 different lineages, wagered among themselves, get ceremonially relabeled as meeting gifts and pressed into my hands with the strained smiles of gamblers publicly converting losses into generosity. I accept with the grace of a man who has been collecting other people's lost bets since the talent orbs. Then comes the audit they can't not run. A formal measuring of the new arrival, standard for prodigies. I let them see exactly what the Bell and I have agreed the upper world gets to see, and even the redacted version detonates. Mental energy at the golden immortal grade, in an ascender whose cultivation reads half-step profound, and beneath it, glimpsed like a whale under a rowboat, the world realm structure carrying 9 Ling powers on a single mind. Fushi Genren makes a sound like a teapot achieving pressure, and has to sit down on a cloud. Shi Jingzi asks the question the whole pavilion is thinking, reverently, of the air itself. Is he the favorite son of the great Ling? And I watch the upper world do the thing every world I've ever entered eventually does. Reach for the least impossible explanation on the shelf. The shelf, this time, offers an old legend about certain ancient races whose minds grow ahead of their bodies. The elders look at my unreadable fate, my impossible mind, my convenient fog, and gratefully shelve me under ancient bloodline, probably. Do not audit further. Every library needs a misfiled book. I am the best filed, misfiled book in creation. And then, because the timing of my whole existence runs on the same clock, the elders tell me what season I've ascended into. Once every million years, the 4 great teachings of the Hong Huang, the Ren, the Chan, the Kai, and the Western Buddhist school hold the 4 sects tournament. The young elites of the 4 lineages, capped at the golden immortal grade, competing under the direct gaze of the saints themselves. Every saint attends. The standings buy their sects a million years of face and favor. And the Chan, Chi Jingzi admits with the pain of a proud man, has spent recent cycles underperforming, to the increasingly visible displeasure of their patriarch, the Saint Ling Bao Tianzun, Lord of the Jade Purity, whose disappointment is measured in eras. The tournament is soon. Entrance, capped below golden immortal cultivation. The saints, watching. Victory, the fastest possible road to a saint's personal favor, and every scripture in my ambitions, starting with the 9 revolutions' mysterious skill, the body-forging apex that exists nowhere except as a saint's personal grace, sits on the far side of exactly that favor. I look at my cultivation, parked by the bell at half-step profound, eligible to the decimal. I look at my mind, which recently graded a primordial war as an entrance exam. I look at 3 elders looking at me the way my master once looked at a fist prodigy walking past every sword in the south. Elders, I say, sign me up. They house me in the Yuju Cave Heaven, a guest grotto with jade bamboo and correct weather, and I spend the seasons before the tournament doing what I have always done between wars, homework. The Jade Purity Immortal Scripture, the Chan's foundational canon, gifted for my enrollment, opens to its third layer under the innate ling seed like a door recognizing family. Its signature art settle in beside my own, the vertical golden light, travel folded into radiance, and the Yuqing thunder methods, lightning with a pedigree. Their artifact craft curriculum I inhale on general principle. My immortal chi, even suppressed, refines toward the peak of the golden grade. And one quiet evening, I open the status panel for the first time in the upper world, just to hear the old voice of home. Age, 2000 and change. Cultivation, half-step profound immortal, voluntarily. Mind, world realm, 9 ling powers. Assets, 1 primordial treasure, 2 innate spirit treasures, 3 true bodies, 1 sulking bow, 365 star banners, 1 parking wallet. Evaluation, in the upper world, host is still small fry. Work, small fry. I own the Bell of Creation machine. The system appraised the bell, by the way, the day we ascended, ran its shopfront numbers over the oldest object in existence, and printed a price that made even me blink. 10 billion chaos points. Not immortal points. Chaos points, a currency tier I didn't know the menu had. And the bell, the treasure that rang in creation, that watched chaos swing the axe, that survived the fall of its emperor and the greed of 6 saints. The bell's spirit felt that appraisal pass over it like a measuring gaze and, by its own later admission, experienced something it described as a stroll past the gates of the underworld. My cheat window-shopped the anchor of creation, and the anchor of creation felt fear. I filed that in the drawer, too. The drawer is getting full. The drawer, one of these eras, is getting opened. Because that's the real shape of everything now, and I can finally see it whole. 2,000 years ago, I was an orphan in a hut with 3 holes in the roof, raising a cup of cheap wine to a ceiling that answered. Tonight, I sit in a jade grotto above the sky of that entire world, half step from the profound, 1 tournament from a saint's table, and the ledger I carry up here holds every debt that matters. A father waiting in the wheel for the son who promised to come get him. An emperor's little brother, Zhou Xuan, alive somewhere under the same sky as me, unprotected until I find him. A fat golden thief named Kunpeng wearing a dead ancestor's grudge like an unpaid bill. And a system that pours golden light into a seed it won't show me, copies creation's dream into an archive it won't name, and knows, has always known, precisely what it's growing me into. The saints think a world seed was born, connected to something that escaped. They're watching the fog for it. They should watch the tournament bracket instead. Ask the upper world, 1,000,000 years from now, when they tell this part of the story. The year the 4 sects gathered, and the saints leaned in, and a half-step nobody from a backwater appendage world walked into the arena with creation's bell in his chest, and every eye in heaven finally pointed at the one thing none of them could read. I kicked the sky's doors open getting up here. Wait until you see what I do to its ceiling.